Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Glory of the Sun God. Chapter 41. I need you to stop them. Give me a reason. Wang Hao showed disdain. Nick Fury really thought he could be on an equal footing with him. He even dared to make demands on him, and it was Wang Hao's gift to him that he could still stand here alive. In this country, civil war really cannot happen, and many people will die. Seeing Wang Hao's attitude, Nick Fury's previous tough words also changed into a plea. What does the people of Mio have to do with me? You broke out in a war, and you suffered countless casualties. That's not your problem. But among them are your followers. Nick Fury said loudly. Oh, that's right, many of them are my believers, so you are asking me, a god, to stop my believers from seeking justice for God and judging evil for God. Nick Fury, I think you were broken by Loki that day, brain. The development of the matter is very clear to Wang Hao. After all, he can feel everything about his disciples. As early as the second day of the New York War, countless people took to the streets. Under the leadership of those envoys, the believers acted as pioneers, and the disaffected citizens took their aid, and the entire New York fell directly. Government departments, police stations, the National Guard, and garrisons outside the city were all captured. There is no way. The envoys all have regenerative healing factors, and they need to apply for healing to use on others, but they don't need to use it themselves. As long as there is a breath, I will immediately resurrect on the spot for you to see. Coupled with the physical function comparable to that of Captain America, Gatling with one hand, dismantling tanks with bare hands is no problem at all. Some of these envoys can even use simple divine power, and they are so powerful that they can control the flames, making the government army run faster than rabbits. Moreover, there are still many government troops who directly defected. After all, they were also within the bombing range of that nuclear bomb at that time, and they were also abandoned sons. Under the leadership of several believer officers, several bases defected to the enemy as soon as they came up, and joined the holy army of the Sun God. Then the army had standard weapons and had real officer command. The momentum of the Legion is getting bigger and bigger, and the May government is in great trouble again. It was Hydra's problem. Before Nick Fury and others could react to the Legion, Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye brought two teams of Avengers to meet with him directly, so Nick Fury with the list immediately started to clear the money and called Hydra. One was caught off guard. This method is indeed effective, and the Hydra never dreamed that the Avengers next door came to spoil the show, and brought a detailed list. After all, the original bosses were basically arrested by the Avengers. With the captain's memory, it is impossible for those people to forget. With a click, the US government shut down on the spot, nearly 1/3 of the people were arrested, and then the old Tony directly deciphered the Hydra database. Well, the evidence is solid. And all this is almost busy. The main backbone of Hydra has been arrested, and the rest is liquidation and reorganization. Only then can Nick Fury and the government have the energy to manage the affairs of the Legion. But they also never dreamed that the situation was out of control. 3 days after the fall of New York, the city order has not deteriorated at all. On the contrary, it is better than before the fall. So, no matter in what era, religious lunatics are always the craziest. Under the leadership of the gangster fanatic, the envoys took the lead in the charge, and the underground forces in the entire New York were almost wiped out. On one side is a symbol of light and justice, with a divine envoy with regenerative healing factor, who can cure terminal illnesses, give birth to dead man flesh and bones, and various super abilities. The most important thing is that there is a real god behind them. On the other side is the underworld that enslaves and exploits itself, brings countless troubles to the lives of residents, and leads to various crimes rampant in the underworld. Any fool knows how to choose. Moreover, Police T is afraid of death, but angels are not afraid. Police T will be bought by profit, but angels are not. Eternal life, who can afford this price? The underground forces in New York, which had already been regarded as a long-standing problem left over from history, were directly wiped out, and then the Legion took over the security of New York City. And in order to ensure the vitality of the city and gain the support of all forces, the Legion has done nothing to the lives of ordinary people. Apart from making speeches, it has just begun to target positive and negative leaders. Others, in the eyes of ordinary people, there is no difference from before. There is still a difference. You can come out for activities at night. In the past, except for specific blocks in New York, driving out to wander around at night was death. Walking 100 meters, 5 daggers and 5 small pistols pointed at you asking for money is not a joke. The reason why those specific blocks can be active is because of the deployment of a large number of police resources. For example, there are at least dozens of policemen watching around Times Square. But now that worry is gone. Dare to commit a crime at night. Someone will knock on the door of your house early tomorrow morning and send you to the angel to confess. So naturally, a country within a state has become. Although Mio was a federal state in the past, and the relationship between the states was relatively independent, the problem is that New York is the largest city and global economic center in Mio. The country's top priority. This is all independent, so what? And the key is that this place is independent of the impact on other places. Nick Fury and the others are busy dealing with Hydra. The Legion has not stopped expanding, at least the publicity is in place, and people all over the United States know what happened here. As a result, all over the United States, believers of the sun god Hoshin sprung up like mushrooms after a spring rain, and people or forces who complained about the people of New York also continued to emerge. It can make Nick Fury do nothing, ignore those piles of things, and run to the port to wait for Wong Hao for a whole day. How could this situation be just a New York problem? Asking a busy man like Nick Fury to drop all his work just to wait until Wong Hao asked him to restrain the believers, this behavior is enough to show how serious the situation is. Definitely, there are more intuitive data. While Wong Hao is away from the hustle and bustle of the world, spending vacations on cruise ships with a troop of maids, his number of followers has been growing. What is mentioned here is what he can perceive, and what he has a clear will to devote himself to his kingdom of God. Among them, there are countless weak believers, from all over the world. Compared with the dumb guy on the cross, Wong Hao proved his existence with tangible miracles. So naturally, there are many people who abandon gods who don't know the truth and come to believe in the true God, but these people can abandon their beliefs at will, and their beliefs are not firm originally, so most of them are weak believers. But the forest is big and there are all kinds of birds, and there are many believers, and it is inevitable that there will be some with firm beliefs. As a result, the number of strong believers also exceeded 100 in a short period of time. Wong Hao checked before disembarking and found that there were already more than 500 strong believers. However, compared to strong believers, the birth of fanatics has little to do with the number of people. In New York City, Wong Hao only saved a few for saving lives, so during this period, the number of fanatics has increased by 2, that's all. Leaving aside the special case of fanatics, strong believers are already people who can go there with explosives for Wong Hao. These people are absolute backbone members no matter what religion they belong to. In Wong Hao's sect, they are light and justice of the symbol. And this group of people is the main target of Nick Fury's worries and worries. New York is already virtually independent under the Legion's governance. And this kind of independence has also made the whole United States see some signs. You must know that not every state has a good relationship with the federal government of Mio. Especially in the inland areas, the economy is underdeveloped, life is very ordinary, and the government never cares about them, only knows to collect taxes and then collect taxes. It is said that it is a developed country, but it is really only a well-off per capita, and it is impossible to live a life, but it is impossible to make a fortune, and the education cannot keep up. You can only stay in the small town of your hometown and live a muddled life for the rest of your life. Many people are dissatisfied with this situation. And now, the largest city in the United States and the most developed state is independent. What are you waiting for? Respond quickly. The ordinary life has passed for a long time, isn't this the time to get ahead? If they really want to fight, maybe they can be the founding generals. So all over the country denounced the federal government, and people who supported the Legion wave after wave. Although the scale was small, there were many of them. And the more than 500 strong believers played a key role at this time. Their beliefs are firm, and they all trust each other. Those who can become strong believers are basically comrades with the same thinking. When they connect with each other, it is really a spark that can start a prairie fire. It just so happens that the federal government is paying Hydra again, so there is no time to deal with them. They come and go, but within a week, the situation in the United States is in chaos. The so-called independent army is basically everywhere except the easternmost and westernmost coastal developed states. The banner plate is also very good. It used to be God Bless America, but now the sun shines on us. In other words, if Nick Fury doesn't come to beg Wong Hao again, this America may really be about to perish. However, Wong Hao's attitude towards this has not changed. If he dares to plot against him and avenge him, then he must pay the price. He has already eaten a nuclear bomb, so he still cares about the survival of America. Acting like you're special. Do you really think you are a symbol of democracy and freedom? It's just that in the two world wars, because of the geographical advantages, they were able to marginalize Og, make war fortune by the way, and finally snatched a large number of European scientists who were in trouble. Do you really think that your own system is so good and advanced? So God bless America. Fooled too many others, and ended up believing it all. Ignoring Nick Fury's corned head, Wong Hao walked straight forward. He was going to visit his church and let his believers see his true God. But you brought light, and now this country, and even the world, will fall into the cloud of war. The forward steps paused, and Wong Hao suddenly laughed out loud. War, clouds, if it's for the sake of the light, and for the light to last forever, then why not? Sit on the lengthened Lincoln carefully prepared by the church, and the two maids who are on duty today are already waiting inside, and drinks and food are also available. Wong Hao's convoy drove away, leaving only Nick Fury in place with a painful and hesitant face. If it was someone else, if it was anyone else, even Thor, he would find a way to use force. The destructive weapons that S.H.I.E.L.D. possesses are more than just nuclear bombs. He can use weapons against gods, ghosts, and aliens. He was promoted from an ordinary agent to a high-level agent because of the battle with the aliens, and he was even able to contact some aliens on the Earth. But that was Wong Hao. He knew very well that not only the nuclear bomb could not kill him, but other weapons could not kill him either. America is over. Nick Fury closed his eyes, feeling very solemn, but a voice suddenly sounded. Are you for the name, or something else? A plainly dressed woman walked from the port, but even ordinary makeup and attire still couldn't conceal her role. What do you mean? Do you remember? I am not from the United States, so I don't understand the meaning of the word America to you, but I know that you are not fighting for it, you are fighting for the people, for the needs of more than 300 million people, ordinary people to protect. Nick Fury suddenly let out a long sigh, then raised his head and looked directly at the person coming. Natasha Romanoff. Now I kind of believe that what attracted us in him was really light and justice, and we can also be called good people. What kind of conversations Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff had behind them, and what new ideas they had, didn't matter to Wong Hao. He's going to inspect now. In other words, go pretend to be tough in front of his believers, and show off your holiness. These people believed in him, entrusted the future in his hands, and were willing to fight and sacrifice for his glory and his goals. Then Wong Hao naturally had to return something. What they gave was everything, everything they could give. As for Wong Hao, the insignificant divine power for him is not too much for them. The location of the church is not far from the port. It was originally an abandoned factory. Later, the economic downturn, coupled with various demands for environmental protection, led to the bankruptcy of the owner of the factory, No Man's Land. The church has a lot of money, so many donations, so that they can afford the capital. A large piece of land was bought by them, except for a vacant lot in the middle, the rest of the place was made into a residential area. It not only found jobs for many original unemployed vagrants, that is, the main force who caused troubles, but also provided a place to live for many believers, the elderly, the weak, the sick and the disabled. Welfare homes have been the only means of religious propaganda since ancient times, and it is no exception to this point. But today, in this piece of land belonging to the Church of the Sun God, everyone has gathered. They are waiting by the side of the road, looking forward to something. They are waiting for their God to come. The convoy drove over quickly, and as the convoy drove in, the sky became brighter. As the rising sun in the distance jumped out of the water, the sky and the earth became brighter, and everyone's hearts also began to brighten. Coming. The most exciting thing is definitely the three angels standing in the front. 2 men and 1 woman. In the past week, they led a large group of believers to form a legion, and took the entire city of New York under their control. Moreover, their deeds are constantly spread to the whole country and the whole world. More and more people join them, and more people are inspired by them. Each of them can be regarded as a role model, selfless, helpful, and positive. If anyone wants to ask what God's people are like, then they are the best answer. And their image is also very outstanding. A middle-aged Uncle Hans, with a calm temperament, gives people a very reliable and friendly feeling. His solid arms can always make those who follow him believe in him, and he is the pillar of the legion. A young man, Luo Cheng, as an Asian, has a sunny smile, cheerful and lively, and always appears on the front line where he is needed. His optimism has made countless people laugh, dispelled the haze in their hearts, and let them continue to be brave facing life and challenges on the ground. 16-year-old girl Anna. With beautiful blonde hair, she has the most beautiful smile in the Legion. The experience of being born in a monastery made her understand the suffering. She is the most popular among women and children. With her firm belief, she provides the strongest logistical support for the team. The car door opened, and two maids dressed neatly and calmly came down from both sides, and then a man stepped out of the car door. The golden sun rises high, shining light between the sky and the earth. All the darkness and evil are retreating. People try their best to see. In the center of the light, the man is walking towards them. My God! The three envoys were the first to bow down. There was no need to ask, no need to be tempted. As long as they saw him, everyone knew that this man was the God they were waiting for. Even if he travels in the same way as ordinary people, he does not stand tall, spread his wings across the sky, or shine brightly. However, he is a God. He is the God of the sun, and no one in the entire universe can imitate him. Get up, I don't like looking down at others. With a faint smile on his face, Wang Hao glanced at his three envoys. Wang Hao knew everything about their past and everything. So although it was the first time for everyone to meet, Wang Hao was very familiar with them. Hans remained silent, but stood up resolutely. His experience is very similar to that of the captain. He was seriously ill and frail since he was a child. He was abandoned by his own parents and grew up in an orphanage. He was tortured by life without compromise. Wang Hao even doubted that if Hans Moke was chosen instead of Steve Rogers, his achievements would not be inferior to that guy. Before becoming an envoy of God, he was actually thinner than ordinary people. Although he insisted on exercising, the effect might not be as good as ordinary people's casual fooling. When the war broke out, he who should be helped was still working hard to help others, and he did not hesitate to give up the chance of survival to women and children in times of crisis. Later, he felt the bright breath of Wang Hao, and he was sure that this was what he believed in and the truth he had been pursuing, so he put his faith in it without any hesitation. As a result, with the help of divine power, his body was restored, and he gained strength stronger than the captain. In the same way, he can also help more people to practice what Wang Hao represents. Light and justice. Hans, I give you holy boxing skills. With faith as support and light as strength, you will be as solid as a rock, and you will be invincible. Go protect your compatriots and destroy your enemies. Wang Hao's voice sounded, and then the light shrouded Hans' body. After a half-pay, he raised his head and raised his fists. A strange force began to gather, making his already resolute momentum even more powerful. Holy boxing, one of Wang Hao's newly developed divine arts. In the past week, he has gained a lot of wish power, and after completing his plan, there is still a lot left, so it has become a benefit for the envoys of the gods. You can choose outstanding disciples to teach holy boxing. It will be your most solid defense and the strongest weapon. Holy boxing is divided into 3 ways of attack and defense. Attacking, mainly using Wang Hao's strength law and speed law, the user's body will be blessed, the strength and speed will be greatly improved, and every punch and kick will have great power. The key is belief. A holy fist warrior who upholds the light relies on belief to drive the holy fist. The stronger the belief, the stronger the power that can be exerted. Based on Han's belief, Wang Hao estimated that it would be no problem to knock Hulk down with 1 punch. After all, he is a fanatic. Definitely, this does not mean that Han's power is that strong, because what he used was actually Wang Hao's power, which Wang Hao borrowed. The defensive style, as the name suggests, is used for defense and protection. The effect is very simple, providing a shield to protect oneself or others. This trick is not based on belief, but on authority, and the power and law that can be used at each level are different. The first layer is pure power law. Blocking bullets is a trivial matter, even small caliber shells can be ignored. The key is not to be afraid of intensive attacks. As long as it doesn't break through the instant output threshold, it can be blocked at will. And there will be no situation where people inside will be injured by shocks, because it is completely kinetic energy absorption. In addition to the law of power, the second layer also has the law of space. At this layer, the breakthrough of a single body also loses its meaning. Although Wang Hao has just started learning space law, at least he has the space gem in hand, and originally has this ability, so he can get started quickly. To put it bluntly, at this level, when the attack hits the shield, it will be directly wiped out by the space power. Anyway, Wang Hao doesn't have much else, just a lot of divine power. A little space power is really insignificant. Moreover, the second layer is not accessible to just anyone, and this is the purpose of Wang Hao's permission setting. It's not that he is reluctant, but that powerful power must be in the hands of those who are worthy of it. The weapons in the hands of human beings are enough to destroy human civilization countless times, but isn't it because the truly powerful weapons cannot be easily used? As for the third layer, it is no longer a purely physical defense. This level can even be directly said to be Wang Hao's blessing. As long as Wang Hao can withstand it, then the user will definitely not be harmed. And with both offense and defense, what is the so-called defense? This move is actually to expand the development direction of Holy Fist warriors. According to the difference of each person's personality, they will get different law ability blessings. For example, Hans is light and power. He can use light to manipulate light, and his own power will be greatly improved at the same time. This is the full and enhanced version of the divine power they obtained before, and it is the result of Wang Hao perfecting his skills during this time. After training and learning, Holy Fist warriors, such as Hans, can use light energy when attacking, such as making light energy weapons, such as releasing light energy to directly cause damage, and can also use various light characteristics to target different opponents, or it is to do some auxiliary work. And through you, warriors can independently extract life force to strengthen their bodies, that is, practice. This Yu means Yushi divine power. I grant you the right to build a sanctuary, train Holy Fist warriors, spread light, uphold justice, maintain my glory, and protect your comrades. Follow my God's order. Hans put his right fist on his left chest and bowed his head to show his respect for Wang Hao. Behind him, countless people cast envious eyes. From now on, Hans will become an existence above 10,000 people. In addition to possessing great power, he will also be in charge of an extremely powerful army. But then, everyone turned their attention to the remaining two envoys. If Hans got the oracle, they would naturally have it too. Sure enough, Wang Hao turned his attention to Luo Cheng after bestowing Hans with holy boxing skills. This is a Chinese man, the posthumous son of a gang boss in Chinatown. Power struggles are everywhere. His father lost, but the old man in the gang still brought up his old mother with him, but his old mother also passed away a few years ago. But it was he who grew up in that environment since he was a child, but he was full of sense of justice. Maybe his mother was disgusted with this kind of person or thing because of his father's death, so she taught him to be bright since he was a child. And when he was young, he was obsessed with knight-errant culture, so he is the lotus flower that emerges from the mud without being stained. Luo Cheng, I will give you the Holy Spirit spell. Luo Cheng's mother hated the affairs of the world, so Luo Cheng was required to study hard since he was a child. Before that, he was a top student at Columbia University in New York City. It was one of the top 3 top schools in the United States. Born there. And the Holy Spirit technique was created just for this. The power of God is to guide you, but you also need to discover your own strength. The Holy Spirit technique helps the user to open up a higher level of spiritual wisdom. Luo Cheng's spiritual power is strengthened, and his brain is developed to a higher degree. His learning ability and creation ability will reach a level that is astonishing to a human being. On the one hand, he will be a pioneer of science, on the other hand, he will also be the leader of the church, as the archbishop in charge of everything. Hans is in charge of strength, while Luo Cheng is in charge of wisdom. This is also in line with the personality characteristics of the two people. Hans is taciturn and just works in silence. And Luo Cheng has a cheerful and lively personality, unconstrained thinking, and an amiable and friendly temperament, a bit similar to Wang Hao, who has more advantages in communicating with others and handling relationships. And he is also the only scholar among the 3 envoys. You will be the bishop, manage and lead them to create a bright future. This sentence has basically announced that Wang Hao has established himself as his earthly agent. If everyone looked at Hans with envy just now, then it's not just envy now. Jealousy, expectation, flattery, the list goes on and on. It will live up to expectations. With a smile on his face, Luo Cheng looked at the man in front of him who looked not much older than himself, and nodded heavily. After the 2 men were done, there was only one beautiful girl left. Anna, I will give you the holy brilliance. Looking at the bright girl in front of him, Wang Hao stretched out his finger, a light flickered on the tip of his finger, and then landed on Anna's eyebrow. Go, spread light for me and bring warmth to the world. Holy boxing technique is force, Holy Spirit technique is wisdom, and Holy Brilliance technique naturally expresses it. With force and wisdom, but the spread of faith still needs to be expressed. The Holy Brilliance technique is prepared for this. Anna will become the face of the church's external publicity, and the Holy Brilliance grants her the abilities of healing, killing evil, and judging. Healing and punishing evil need not be introduced again, but the judgment technique is created by Wang Hao's characteristics. The effect is very simple. When you activate this technique, as long as you have evil thoughts in your heart, you will feel ashamed. To put it bluntly, it is to magnify the kindness in people's hearts. No matter how evil they are, there will always be a trace of goodness in their hearts, and those who take it for granted even if they do evil will definitely have times to ask themselves if they should. And this trace of kindness will be infinitely magnified in front of Anna, and then he will feel ashamed and guilty, he will tell the truth, he will explain the facts, he will not bear to be hurt, and so on. For example, if Alexander Pierce, the leader of Hydra who tried to kill hundreds of millions to achieve his ruling purpose, was tried by Anna, he would cooperate with all means to explain his criminal facts clearly and try his best to make up for it. Then spend the rest of your life in guilt trying to repair as much as possible the mistakes and damage you caused. No prisons, no courts, he will judge himself. This is the horror of the Holy Brilliance technique. The warriors of the temple bulldozed everything. The Saint Anna came forward to appease and judge, and the bishop led by Luo Cheng governed the place and developed the people's livelihood. Basically, one place was completely settled. In a modern society where technology is sufficiently developed and resources can be satisfied, there is church control, and there is no opportunity for careerists and exploiting classes to rise up. Wang Hao really can't imagine how this kind of society can be in turmoil. If none of this works, it can only be said that his countless vows were wasted, and I gave him the carefully crafted God for nothing. Yes, God me. With the large-scale development of the church and the expansion of believers, Wang Hao obtained countless vows, and he used them to create a God self who is in charge of divinity, impartial and selfless, and can meet his various needs. To put it bluntly, it is a supercomputer similar to Keisha's knowledge treasure house and Carl's big clock, a system created by himself. It unifies the power of Wang Hao and distributes it to the believers, including reviewing their degree of belief and concept fit, giving them authority, and distributing their power. And to solve Wang Hao's problems when he needs it. Similar to the healing technique, as long as it is not for the believers to use, he can now use the control of the gods to quickly analyze the human body structure, and then grasp the amount of life force used, so as to achieve perfect healing without there are other sequelae issues. Rather than needing to expend willpower to create a magic spell. There are also spectrum, flame temperature, including his various other powers, all of which have become more convenient and easy to use under the control of God. The most important thing is that the God self is made up of vows. The more the vows, the greater the ability of the God self, including things like creation. In the future, only Wang Hao one-click operation is required, and the God self will be able to directly custom templates for Wang Hao to choose from. Compared with the divine arts bestowed on the envoys, the most powerful divine arts created by Wang Hao in this retreat is precisely his own. This is a bit equivalent to the Buddhist saying of Sambhogakaya, and it's also a bit like cutting 3 corpses in the prehistoric, so he called the god Mihaoshin, and called himself the original self. This is also related to the believers. In the future, the believers will use the magic to find him to find Haoshin, and Haoshin will choose to answer their various questions, and even assist them in fighting. The work of the church is over. Although he was the hands-off shopkeeper, but he helped them, and they couldn't blame him if they couldn't do well. Everything needs to be done by gods, so what are you people doing by yourself? To be honest, how these believers live has nothing to do with Wang Hao. He should eat and drink, and it doesn't affect him. After all, these people are helping themselves to create the future, so it is enough for Wang Hao to give him guidance and strength. I have given both strength and wisdom, so what else do I need from him? Can everyone be given eternal life? It's impossible for me to pay attention to you all the time. In that case, it's better to send you directly to my kingdom of God. There will be no birth, old age, sickness and death, and no sorrow in parting. But the bright future of human beings must be created by ourselves after all. Get too close and you'll end up getting burned. On the throne of the church, Wang Hao said to his 3 angels. And they also nodded. Anna was too young to understand, but both Hans and Luo Cheng knew it in their hearts. There will only be more and more reliance. Wang Hao has given enough help now, enough for them to create a brilliant civilization. Work hard. After a few hundred years, when you think it's time for you to retire, you can rest in my kingdom of God and enjoy eternal life and eternal joy. It's not impossible to be a god and have your own kingdom of God. Quote. Regarding this point, the 3 of them didn't say anything. They didn't care about things like conferring gods, at least the 3 of them didn't. What about the doctrine, my God? You will be our spiritual leader, but we need to know the scope of your permission. Luo Cheng asked respectfully. What Wang Hao meant was to make it clear that without interfering with human development, it is impossible to control everything like a certain church. Wang Hao didn't even bother to take care of it, but then the church was formally formed, and the division of labor between the 3 was clear. Anna was in charge of publicity, Hans was in charge of fighting, and Luo Cheng was in charge of management. But the doctrine is still needed. Brightness and the future are enough words. If you don't know how to do it, just learn it. It's not for you to ask me to give you the Holy Spirit. As long as it conforms to the correct value orientation of human beings and can bring positive energy to people, as long as it can make better contributions to the future of mankind, all of these are fine, and the times are different, and the standards are also different. Just follow the changes of the times. Wang Hao is not interested in taking care of everything. His goal has been achieved, and the church is on the right track, so he doesn't need to worry about the follow-up. And Yuan Li can already achieve a stable income, so don't worry about it. What about the direction of the country? It was a rare opportunity to meet Wang Hao in person, and Luo Cheng quickly asked another question. But Wang Hao really didn't want to talk to him anymore, so he just dropped the sentence. Ask Hoshin if you have any questions, I'm leaving. It's getting dark, it's time to get off work. It's getting dark, and the sun must be off work. As soon as the words fell, Wang Hao disappeared into the air, leaving Luo Cheng and the 3 of them looking at each other in dismay. After Wang Hao disappeared, he came to the Stark building, and now he no longer needs to fly. With Hoshin's calculations, he can already use the teleportation ability. It's not space transfer, it's too troublesome. Any use of space power needs to calculate coordinates and preparations in advance. Ancient One needs to change circles, flight needs to find wormholes for space jumps, and even space gems need to open a portal. He used light teleportation. As long as there is light, he can teleport there directly, not at the speed of light, but directly teleport. His consciousness is exchanged between photons in an instant, and then his body reorganizes, which is much faster than the speed of light. And this is his unique skill. However, when he came to the Stark building, he was a little surprised by the scene here. What's the situation? The place where the banquet was held before has now become a small processing factory, with instruments and equipment everywhere, and the floors have been opened up to connect with the basement. And a group of robots were busy working. At the same time, 2 Tonys and 2 Banners were discussing something with each other, and then they each started to work separately. They're making equipment. Hawkeye looked a little bored leaning against a nearby post. The Avengers have their own things to do. The Captain and Natasha Romanoff were helping Nick Fury deal with Hydra before, and this group of scientists started a technological revolution after exchanging information. As for the 2 Asgard brothers, they went back to Asgard after the banquet, but this time it was not Thor who pressed Loki to go back. Loki went back to challenge as the god of fire under the command of the sun god. So in the end there is only one Hawkeye left. Equipment. Haoshin, what are those? Asking Hawkeye will definitely not give you the reason, so Wang Hao directly asked the system he created, the supercomputer terminal Haoshin in charge of divine power. Start scanning. Start searching Bruce Banner's memory storage, the search is complete. The answer is obtained. A slightly mechanized voice sounded in Wang Hao's mind, and after it was over, the voice said again. These are the nanorobot activation devices, and the nanorobot programming device over there is the generated device. In Wang Hao's field of vision, several lights mark the function of each device for him. According to the information in my knowledge base, this is the nanotechnology brought by the endgame version of Tony Stark. They are manufacturing it in advance in this time and space, and completing the weaponization. Nanotechnology was obtained by Tony from Helen Zhao, the female doctor in the Cold Country in Avengers, Age of Ultron. After joint development, Tony weaponized it to create a nano armor. But now, Tony and Banner in time and space collided with each other. After the technical exchange, the four geniuses worked together to push this technology to a new height, and also to manufacture enough weapons and equipment for the world's reinforcements. They can't travel through time and space and still carry ammunition depots, tanks and cannons, right? Anyway, Wang Hao went on vacation, and the captain was busy playing Hydra, and they were given plenty of time to complete the work. Record technology and enrich it into the knowledge base. The power of Invisible began to scan the entire Stark building. Light waves and electromagnetic waves, under Haoshin's control, silently invaded Stark's terminal. All kinds of technical data were copied by him without any hindrance, and then Haoshin quickly studied them. Definitely, this kind of behavior is extremely energy-consuming. When Haoshin was first born, it invaded the entire Earth network, recorded various knowledge data and learned and understood it. The energy consumed was enough for the human beings on the entire Earth to use for more than 100 years. This is because human civilization has only been developed for thousands of years. Knowledge and technology on the internet are not considered core and important, and it is not difficult to deduce. But this is only possible if Wang Hao is big enough and has enough energy. He who can connect the entire universe to the fixed star has almost endless energy, let alone a space gem in his hand. Otherwise, anyone else would have been sucked dry. The scientific quartet, unaware of what Wang Hao had done, was still busy. Except for Banner from Earth 1 who looked up at Wang Hao's arrival, the rest of them were so immersed in their work that they didn't even realize it. But they couldn't notice, so Wang Hao could only interrupt them by himself. How long will this take? Walking straight into the studio, Wang Hao stood in front of old Tony and asked. Ah, why are you here? Surprised at first, then old Tony looked around and replied. It can be over tomorrow, if you don't consider large-scale dressing. We have made 10 sets of nano armor, which is enough for use. In the past, Tony didn't want his armor to be used casually by others, for fear that it would become a military weapon instead of a steel armor if it would spread. But at this stage, his world is like that, so what else is there to care about? The captain doesn't care about freedom anymore, and is willing to travel through time and space to change the future, so why is he still struggling? He now hates why everyone in the Avengers alliance didn't have a set of armors, just kill Thanos and count the ball. Besides, it is not his world that is causing harm now, but Earth 1, and this world is supported by a tall man like Wang Hao. His armor is not high-end combat power in front of Wang Hao, so the problem is fundamental, no longer exists. So what are you worried about? Start with large-scale equipment directly. 10 sets, let me think about it, you have it yourself. The captain can use a hammer, and Banner doesn't need it, so you prepared it for them and the Avengers of your world. In fact, there are only 2 people who need armor, yes, you 2 scumbags, Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff. You have to fight aliens and you still have to hold a bow and arrow, and the Avengers alliance is 4. Who can Hawkeye talk to? The space battleships are here, can't you give him a gun? That's not right, there are several more sets. Wang Hao looked at Tony with some puzzlement. He couldn't say that he was preparing for the resurrected Avengers, could he? Ah, I let the captain shake people. Tony shrugged. If it is true that someone will obstruct us as you said, and there may be conflicts, then helpers are definitely needed. Anyway, this can be regarded as training the world in advance and experiencing a space war in advance. Hearing what he said, Wang Hao thought for a while and knew the answer. He went to Wakanda. Well, I set off last night, and it should be here now. I also asked him to bring some vibranium back. Since there is going to be a fight, it is natural to prepare well. Vibranium is a good thing. Inspired by Ultron, my use of this thing is very good. Very thoughtful. Who is Ultron? Earth One Tony on the side asked along the way. You're and Banner's son, but at last the rebellion has come and will kill us all. Old Tony said casually. Wait, my son, or with him? Tony, who has never studied psychic scepters, doesn't even think about the shadow of artificial intelligence, so he naturally doesn't know what the Ultron project is. But what he said on EARTH2 really shocked him, including Banner, who was on the side, who almost shook his hand and caused an experimental accident and then transformed into a hammer. Don't listen to his nonsense. It's an artificial intelligence developed by the two of us based on the psychic scepter. It was originally intended to be used to control your Iron Legion and achieve global security, but it turned out to be a traitor and almost destroyed the Earth. The Green Dr. Hulk chuckled. Thinking about it now, the past was quite funny, and this explanation made Earth One Tony and Banner heave a sigh of relief. However, I can even develop an artificial intelligence with autonomous consciousness. I really am a genius. After relaxing for a while, Tony started bragging again, not caring at all that his so-called self-aware artificial intelligence was going to destroy the world. Stop talking, hurry up and work. Hey, by the way, what are you talking about? Old Tony interrupted his flattery, and then turned his head to look at Wang Hao suspiciously. And Wang Hao was almost taken away by them. He just remembered this. Oh, I'm here to tell you, you can go. You can go to your place when you are done. This, so fast, quick, you don't want your daughter anymore. Wang Hao looked at Old Tony a little strangely. This guy was always in a hurry before, why did he change his mind now? No, I saw that you left for a week, and thought it was to give us more time to prepare and plan. If you don't want to go back, I'm free. I still want to go to the universe, but in that case, it will take a long time to find me. Wang Hao really intends to take an adventure in the universe. After all, how big is the Earth? How big is the solar system? Compared with the universe with infinite possibilities and infinite fun, the Earth is too small. And after being busy with the endgame, there is basically no big news on Earth in the Marvel world, and he is too busy picking up girls every day. After visiting this universe, he plans to go to other universes to see it. But hearing him say that, Old Tony said quickly, no, I'll inform them right away. The captain and the others have gone to Wakanda. If they go back and forth, they can come back almost tomorrow night. How about leaving the next morning? I have no opinion. After confirming the time, Wang Hao left the building, which was transformed into a small processing factory, and there was no place to stay, let alone sit down. Here there is no place for the master to stay. Wang Hao is floating in the air, and finally goes straight up, and he has come to the space without knowing it. This is the first time he has stepped into space. Although his spirit is always connected to the sun of this galaxy, and he can use its energy at will, it is the first time he looks from space from a human perspective. It's beautiful. Huge amounts of the Earth looks very gorgeous in space. Compared with the monotonous silvery white of the moon next to it, the Earth with mountains, rivers, lakes and seas, verdant forests, and vast deserts is more beautiful and colorful. Thousands of miles of mountains and rivers are painted into a magnificent landscape picture, which makes Wang Hao amazed. However, this kind of light is very comfortable. Floating in space, Wang Hao's body is covered with silver light, which is the sunlight reflected from the nearby moon. After being reflected, this light has already changed, becoming something very different from the warm and blazing sunlight. One yin and one yang, yes, I should create a moon goddess. Wang Hao finally knew where his strange feeling came from. It's time to expand your pantheon. With Vulcan, there must also be moon goddess. Only this time, it was not transformed by other people, but created by Wang Hao himself. Haoshan, call out the god, and Haoshan will start working immediately. Analyze the willpower needed to create a new godhead. Extract the knowledge bases descriptions about the moon and the moon goddess. Extract the knowledge bases appeals and preferences for beautiful women. Analyze the preferences of the self. The moon goddess is destined to accompany him, whether as his deputy or as his partner. Moon Shendu is irreplaceable. The group of maids and other women are limited to lust and cannot rise to the level of love, but he also needs a place for emotional sustenance. Otherwise, the same sentence, isn't the time of billions of years too boring? And with the rapid operation of Haoshin, soon, a group of moonlight exuding silver brilliance gathered in front of him. Generating Godhead, extracting moonlight divine power, extracting negative divine power, lacking divine power, interrupting the generation of Godhead, activating wish power, generating moon god Godhead, successfully generating negative divine power, extracting time-space divine power, extracting divinity. According to Wang Hao's request, Haoshin mobilized Wang Hao's own ability, picked up the leftovers to make up for the gaps, and combined with the willpower, Haoshin quickly completed the prototype of the moon godhead. Extracting life force, the divine body is being generated, and the divine body has been generated. In the light of the moon, a dreamlike girl appeared in front of Wang Hao little by little from scratch. A perfect body, even if it has not been infused with a godhead, has a soul that belongs to a god, but this body alone is enough to fascinate men all over the world. Definitely, they will not have the opportunity to witness such a scene. Dark clouds make the moon. The moon is born with a mysterious temperament, different from the majestic sun. The moon has a bright moment, but most of the time she hides her true face, just like the back of the moon, unappreciated. No. People can only see a part of her forever, but not the whole picture. Except Wang Hao. Inject the godhead. The moon god is created. Haoshin's voice ceased, and his huge reserve of Thou power was basically exhausted, but fortunately, with the constant replenishment from the believers on earth, his reserve would slowly fill up. Definitely, Wang Hao's attention is now on his eyes. This beautiful young girl in clouds-like clothes is opening her eyes. Haoshin is completely Wang Hao's preference to create the appearance of the moon god. From all angles, this moon Shendu will be Wang Hao's favorite woman. From character to appearance, there is nothing that does not conform to Wang Hao. Definitely, in her heart, Wang Hao is also her everything. Yin and Yang complement each other, only in this way can there be harmony. Originally, this kind of thing couldn't be done with Wang Hao's power, and he formed a god whose power was mostly opposite to his own, but could also complement him. Don't say Wang Hao can't do it, even the creator god, Death, who is in charge of the rise and fall of all life in the universe, can't do it. Unless she can integrate the full power of the 5 creation gods, it is still possible. But Wang Hao used Haoshin and his willpower to achieve something that even the creator Shendu could not do. Like a baby bird opening its eyes, Luna's slender eyelashes trembled slightly, and then his bright eyes like autumn water slowly opened, dazed and at a loss. But immediately, when she saw Wang Hao in front of her, a sense of incomparable intimacy suddenly emerged. Apart from anything else, like a baby swallow throwing itself into her arms, Luna slipped into Wang Hao's arms, feeling the warmth. The power of yin and yang blends and merges between the two, between the sun god and the moon god. The feeling of home. Embracing her Luna, Wang Hao felt a rare warmth in her heart, which no one or Shendu could give to herself except her. Hey, your name is Wang Hao, what's my name? The information about Wang Hao was injected into the godhead of the moon god from the very beginning, and the mission of her birth was to make Wang Hao complete, so that the sun god would no longer hang alone in the sky, but would be accompanied by someone from now on. The moon has its ups and downs, and this matter is difficult to complete in ancient times. I hope that people will live forever and share the beauty. You can be called Wang Chen'er. To the outside world, you are both my sister and my wife. Chanwan is another name for the moon, and this name is perfect. Chen'er. Okay. Chen'er hugged Wang Hao tightly, her slim body pressed against Wang Hao tightly, and she couldn't bear to be separated from him for a moment. In Wang Hao's kingdom of God, a round of moon rises beautifully, giving the whole kingdom of God a tinge of coolness, and the radiance of the sun adds a little bit of gentleness and tranquility. 2 golden and silver rays of light intertwined and fell to the earth. In the blink of an eye, the two returned to New York. It's just that the two of them didn't return to the Stark building, but took Chen'er for a stroll in various shopping malls. He has never been in a serious relationship since he grew up. Lust is desire, but love is different. But he didn't know what to do when he was in love. If he really talked to other girls, he might basically go according to the other girls' ideas, but now he can only go shopping and eat with Chen'er. Do whatever she likes. Then, looking at the big and small bags in his hand, Wang Hao shook his head and smiled wryly. The clothes on him and Chenur were all created by divine power. It looks like clothes, but it's actually divine energy, just like the extra set of armor that Thor and the captain wore when they lifted the hammer and transformed. Definitely, let Hoshin use the power of faith to create things out of thin air and make real clothes, but there is no need for that. But he didn't expect that Chenur would like to go shopping. Or is it that women can't escape this catastrophe? It doesn't matter whether it's a woman or a goddess. While talking, he asked Hoshin to continue to pay the bill, and then he got another pair of shoes in his hand. Hoshin is equivalent to a supercomputer, and the consciousness of God is equivalent to the intelligence in it. With a little computing power, the Earth network is completely open to him. Definitely, he naturally wouldn't directly hack other people's accounts or something. That kind of behavior is tantamount to stealing. How can he be so low-end as a god? There are many ways to make money on the internet. With a little calculation, there will be a lot of money in Hoshin's account, which is earned by Hoshin's hard work. Later, Hoshin learned to trade stocks and engage in futures. Well, anyway, when it comes to playing with data, Hoshin is really not afraid of anyone. All kinds of operations are smooth, and the money in the account is also increasing. Anyway, Wang Hao didn't ask how many there were. At first, he asked how many zeros were there, and after getting a reply of 8, he stopped caring. And now, naturally, you only need to buy. But it doesn't seem like a good thing if you can buy it casually. Cough, Chenur, I think it's almost done. Why don't we go back first? After all, she was just born, and she was very new to everything. It was the first time she came out to play, and Wang Hao also had the idea of letting her have fun. But now he has come to his senses. She is a god, her physical strength is almost unlimited. How can she have fun? However, Chenur, who was gesturing at Wang Hao with a men's sweater and a pair of pants to match, suddenly showed a pitiful expression on her face after hearing Wang Hao's words. Okay then, we can only come again next time. In nearly 3 hours, Chenur bought more than 120 pieces of clothes for spring, summer, autumn and winter for herself, and countless small accessories. In addition, a certain model of 2 famous lingerie stores was directly wrapped up. She is a good wife who knows all Wang Hao's hobbies. And as a good wife, she definitely didn't just buy for herself. She also bought more than 240 pieces of various clothes for Wang Hao. From her point of view, the matching effect is naturally nothing to say. In her priesthood, there is the power of beauty. In addition to being the moon god, she is also the god of beauty. But for Wang Hao, it's quite scary. I'm afraid he hasn't bought more than 200 pieces of clothes in the past 20 years. If he hadn't learned the use of space power, and Hoshin was already opening up the kingdom of God, perfecting and expanding the kingdom of God, there would be no place to put so many things. Chenur reluctantly followed Wang Hao and left the shopping mall. After dinner, Wang Hao brought Chenur to the Stark building. Everything is ready to go. At night, I came to the top floor of the Stark building, where the lights were still brightly lit. Wang Hao left for a full day, but the busyness here did not decrease at all. But there are more people. The captain and others came back faster than Tony expected. A Wakanda fighter plane carried T'Challa, who was only a prince, and a group of vibranium brought the captain and others directly to New York City. Originally, Tony thought that it would take some time for the captain to win the trust of Black Panther, who has not yet intersected with him in this time and space. But obviously, he underestimated the charisma of the captain, or what the captain brought to win the trust of Wakanda, so they came directly to help. It seems that everyone is here. There was no room for a foothold on the top floor, so Tony emptied out the lower floors to make a living room and a meeting place for the Avengers. Looking at the hall full of guests and friends, Wang Hao nodded, and the Avengers Alliance in his impression was only a few people away. Hey, who is she? As the god of beauty, Chenur's beauty is enough to conquer any humanoid creature on the earth. It's not just perfect that can be described. Wang Hao's envoy, Saint Anna, is becoming more and more perfect under the nourishment of life force, and also has the blessing of holy brilliance, with a unique temperament, noble and holy. But Anna still only conforms to the senses of most people, and there are always some weirdos who think she is not so good looking. But Chenur is different. Her beauty is irresistible to human beings, just like Wang Hao's charm is to women. Therefore, when she appeared in the hall, the pure and lovely, she immediately attracted most of the attention. I am Wang Chen'er, the wife of Wang Hao, big brother. Chen'er said openly. Then the eyes of everyone present at Wang Hao changed, as if they were looking at a beast, or a sinner who blasphemed and defiled the goddess. She's still a child. Tony looked at Wang Hao in shock. Even if he was as nasty as him, he would not attack the little girl. As for Chen'er, in his opinion, the image of a girl is completely. A girl of this age should still be in high school and enjoy school life. I might have to think about my faith. Banner adjusted his glasses. Although he had traveled to many countries in the past to avoid being hunted down, in those poor places, it was common for girls to marry into wives early. But the problem is, in Wang Hao's opinion, there is absolutely no need for this. As for Natasha Romanoff, her focus is different. She is the only one among the people present who is familiar with the culture of florists. He can even speak fluent Mandarin. So when she heard that Chen'er was called Wang Hao big brother, and that her surname was also Wang, she imagined some strange things in her mind. It seems that the gods like forbidden love. For example, among the 7 wives of Zeus, there are aunts and sisters. The Queen Hera is Zeus's sister, right? Everyone present had different expressions, but there was no doubt that they all condemned Wang Hao. This was not because they dared to offend Wang Hao, but because Chen'er was so charming that people couldn't help defending her. As for their accusations and contempt, Chen'er's attitude is very obvious. She hugged Wang Hao, leaned her little head on Wang Hao's chest, and then looked at the Avengers Alliance crowd angrily. You are not allowed to accuse Wang Hao big brother. AWSL. Tony had a heart attack on the spot, and was overwhelmed by Chen'er's charm. And the men present were almost all the same. Even the 2 captains were in a trance for a while, but they didn't make a fool of themselves like the others. It's just that the act of closing his eyes while silently saying Peggy's name and touching the pocket watch with Peggy Carter's picture in his pocket shows that even the most determined captain is deranged. Not only men, Pepper and Natasha Romanoff, who just walked in, looked at Chen'er a little abnormally at the moment, as if the illegitimate fan saw the appearance of his idol, and the whole person almost went crazy. Cough. The group release of the killing evil technique made everyone's minds recover a little bit, and Wang Hao reintroduced it. This is my wife, Luna. She is also the god of beauty. After hearing what everyone said, they suddenly realized, no wonder Chen'er is so beautiful, because she is a god of beauty. Goddess of the moon, no wonder, the sun and the moon, but why she looks like a girl. You have spent countless years, won't you grow up? Because of Wang Hao's nonsense, he slept for hundreds of millions of years, so everyone thought Wang Hao was very old, even though he looked young. Because Wang Hao big brother likes me like this. Chen'er giggled and said. 2 lovely dimples hung on her cheeks, and there was a bit of natural charm in her innocent smile. Even if she didn't show her charm to anyone, everyone still had a burst of heartbeat or simply short circuit. Ah, no, if this continues, I feel that I will never be able to look directly at other women again. The most feared thing in this world is contrast. In front of Chen'er's ultimate beauty, all women are overshadowed. Wang Hao also noticed this, so he turned his head and said something to Chen'er. Afterwards, the smoke in Chen'er's eyes flowed, and an invisible veil covered her face. In an instant, everyone present returned to normal. Not only that, but the image of the beautiful girl who was so impressive in their hearts that the captain almost forgot Peggy was fading little by little, as if turning into a dream. This is Chen'er's special ability. The moon has been mysterious since ancient times, and concealment is Chen'er's natural ability. The veil on her face can make it impossible for everyone to see her face clearly, and it can even make the image she left behind fade away, ethereal. Their eyes are very strange. Anyway, I don't like them very much. I will only show them to you in the future. Chen'er was tall and slender, but she was still half a head shorter than Wang Hao. At the moment when she raised her head, the 2 looked at each other, and everything was said without saying anything. Chen'er's influence disappeared, and the matter finally returned to the right track. Everyone seemed to have forgotten everything that happened just now, and resumed the discussion. The question now is, how do we get there? The future Black Panther and current Prince T'Challa don't know much about the specific situation, raising doubts about their actions to support the Avengers in different dimensions. Things like traveling through time and space are very cool but very complicated no matter where they are. We came here to use this space-time beacon to shrink the PIM particles to the subatomic level and enter the quantum space for shuttle, so we only need to enlarge this device. Old Tony gestured to the watch-shaped object in his hand. The key point of the feasibility of time travel through quantum space lies in this. The algorithm he designed can successfully find the prepared space-time coordinates, preventing them from getting lost in the quantum space and going to the wrong time and place. But Wang Hao interrupted him, and then took out 2 gemstones of different colors. With them here, your set can be put away. The time gem and space gem are here, so there is no need to go to the quantum space. Wang Hao can directly open a portal to the world where the final battle is located. Okay, let's rest for one night, and leave tomorrow morning. Everyone dispersed immediately, busy with their own affairs, while Wang Hao and Chenur were going to find a hotel to rest. Although they didn't need to sleep to be energetic, this was Wang Hao's habit, and he didn't plan to change it for the time being. Wait a minute. Seeing Wang Hao and Chenur walking towards the balcony, Natasha Romanoff suddenly stopped them both. Big brother, let's go. Chenur let go of her clenched hands and walked aside, leaving room for Wang Hao and Natasha Romanoff. She doesn't care about certain things. The sun is the lord of the sky, the stars are bright, but there is only one sun that shines brightly. And likewise, there is only one moon. Like Wang Hao, Chenur is also the lord of the stars. Even in Wang Hao's harem, as the god king of the god system, she is also the unique queen who manages the concubines for him. Just like Hera was to Zeus. Jealousy is not something she would do. But Natasha Romanoff is not looking for Wang Hao for this kind of thing. Nick has decided that if you can bring this country and the people of this world a better and brighter future, he is willing to serve you. He will work with the rest of the government to facilitate peace negotiations as much as possible. This is a decision made by Nick Fury after careful consideration. He doesn't want to see national civil wars, extraterrestrial crises gnawing at his throat, Chitauri, Kree, and other civilizations and forces. A safe corner of the Earth may be safe and sound, but once human beings leave the Earth, they will inevitably face extremely cruel and realistic problems. Before that, it is even more impossible to waste resources on unnecessary internal friction. It may be an opportunity for God to re-intervene in the development of human civilization. At the beginning, Nick Fury talked with Wang Hao and learned that Wang Hao's existence is the most powerful and top-level even in the vast universe. With the blessing of such a God, the future of human civilization may indeed be bright and full of hope. The Legion's uprising is unavoidable, so if you can't beat it, join. At least in this case, you can also win a sufficiently reliable pillar for human civilization. It has to be said that Nick Fury reacted quickly and made decisions decisively. In the past, he has fought against various threats and forces that affect the free and autonomous development of human civilization. But now, facing an invincible opponent, he decisively chose to change course and choose to seek refuge with Wang Hao to gain a certainty about the future direction. This is indeed what a qualified leader should do. Let him deal with his own affairs first. With his current status, he doesn't have enough weight to push this matter. That's a choice that a qualified leader should make, but alas, Nick Fury is not yet a leader. We're going to move very quickly and Nick will take the lead. Natasha Romanoff said solemnly. This is bound to be a massive purge. The collapse of Hydra's apparent influence has led to a major reshuffle of the power class, but this is not enough. To control the remaining power of the country, they need more. And bloodshed was inevitable, but this is for the future. Those people are obstacles to the future, no matter the past or the present. At the end of the conversation, Wang Hao at least released the attitude that it is possible to talk, and Nick Fury was relieved after receiving Natasha Romanoff's reply. It's good if you can talk, even if you don't even give a chance to talk, that would be complete despair. After all, Nick Fury really can't think of any way to kill a god like Wang Hao. In fact, his machine was about to fail. Carol said he would respond, but there was no news. Otherwise, he might have a lot more choices. In the early morning, when the first ray of sunlight hit the Stark building, Wang Hao appeared in front of the Avengers with Chenur. This is the space-time coordinates. Handing over his watch to Wang Hao, old Tony stood aside, and except him, all the other people who participated in this operation put on the latest nano armor mixed with vibranium. 2 captains, 2 Tonys, Dr. Hulk plus Dr. Banner, Ant-Man and Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff, plus Black Panther, Falcon called by Captain ahead of time and Colonel Rhodes called by Tony, sent by Nick Fury Hill and Phil Coulson. Finally, there are 2 Thor brothers who have rushed back from God's domain. Loki is Wong Hao's god, so naturally he wants to go out with him, and Thor is to witness what his future self will be like. In short, this team is very large, and in terms of lineup, it can basically be regarded as the most outstanding group of fighters on Earth. Then let's go. The information in the space-time beacon was read by Haoshan. Following Wong Hao's order, Haoshan directly mobilized the energy of the time gem and space gem, and the blue portal appeared next to everyone. Take one step, the world will spin, and the world will change. After crossing the cosmic barrier, everyone appeared in another time and space. Whoa, that's what you call the future Avengers Alliance base. Well, not bad. Due to the large number of people, everyone appeared on the large square at the gate of the Avengers Alliance base. As one figure passed through the portal, the base also got news. Soon, there were several people wearing white quantum combat uniforms. People ran out. Monkey Richet, Watfak, the raccoon spoke. Tony looked in shock at Rocket Raccoon, who was on the ground just up to his knees, and almost overreacted and gave him a shot. And the same is true of everyone on Earth behind him. After all, they have seen aliens before, but this is the first time they have seen talking raccoons. Rod, what do I see? 2 Tony Starks, hey, the one with the bow and arrow, you point at me like that again, can't you believe you'll never have any underwear to wear again? Rocket pointed at Hawkeye in the crowd, and behind him, Hawkeye, who ran out from Earth 2, looked at Natasha Romanoff in the crowd as if he had seen a ghost. Xana, with a non-mainstream haircut, Kay Lin-Tay, who became a Ronin, had tears in his eyes and trembling lips. Natasha Romanoff, who had just sacrificed herself in front of him, came back from the dead, which made him feel like he was living in a dream, and he couldn't believe the facts in front of him. Definitely, the most explosive part of the show was Loki. When Thor from Earth 2 came out, Loki almost didn't recognize him, and Thor almost didn't recognize Loki, who had changed his image and temperament. After all, his Loki had been strangled to death by Thanos 5 years ago. Ever since, Thor looked at Loki with tears in his eyes, but Loki pointed at Thor and laughed out loud, laughing so hard that tears also came out. I must tell Frigg about this matter. No, I want to take a picture of you and spread it all over Asgard. My god, Thor, the Prince of Asgard, the future King of Gods, has now become this look, and Jane Foster, that woman will love you just the way you are. The meeting is finally over. The 2 parallel universe Avengers meet each other, and there are a lot of jokes, but there are also sorrows and condolences. Natasha Romanoff sacrificed herself for the Soul Gem, and Thor was so decadent because of the destruction of Asgard, and the whole family died. And everyone on Earth 1 has also seen the depression of Earth 2 today. On that day, more than 3 billion people disappeared. We have spent 5 years in despair. This despair cannot be offset by beheading Thanos, because what is lost has been lost after all. They did what their team name says, the Avengers, they got their revenge, but the rest is hopeless. It wasn't until this moment that they realized how pale and powerless the word revenge was. Avengers, how ridiculous and sad. You are about to take revenge, which means that the opponent has already won, so revenge is just a futile rescue for the loser. Even if you lose, even if you succeed in revenge, it will not change the fact that you have lost blood and blood. By the way, I don't know what you are here for. Rhodes of Earth 2 asked while looking at his healthy and young self, with a hint of envy in his eyes. He lost consciousness from the waist down, and his nervous system was broken. This is not just a simple paralysis. Walking problems can be done with mechanical exoskeletons. What about other things? He can't even control himself when going to the toilet, he can only wear adult diapers. As for this, everyone was also at a loss, because Wong Hao asked them to come here. Definitely, it is really meaningful after they come here. After seeing the future situation, at least there will be no more differences between the captain and Tony after going back. You can also sit down and have a good talk. But Wong Hao said at the time that something would happen. Didn't you find someone missing? Wong Hao took Chenur to visit the future Avengers Alliance base. It was just a building in the movie, and he had never seen the details inside. But since everyone asked, he didn't hide it, he just pointed out the situation. Fewer people. Who is missing? Both sides began to search for the members of their own team, and after some sorting, Rhodes suddenly screamed. Where did Nebula go? Chapter 51. Xingyan. Who is Xingyan? The Avengers of Earth-1 never saw the blue robot sister from beginning to end, while the Avengers of Earth-2 became very familiar with one of the last two remaining members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. She's in the quantum tunnel. What is she doing? Nebula has been staying in the quantum tunnel since everyone welcomed the people from Earth-1 to go out. Now, everyone finally reacted, but it was too late. The channel is open. Why? The two Tonys looked at each other, then said in unison. Someone is coming. As soon as the voice fell, the machine started, and the tunnel opened again. With the influx of energy, a ray of light flashed, then broke through the roof, became bigger and bigger in the air, and finally fully unfolded. A real starship has arrived. Since Tony's time beacon is set to come back 3 seconds after they left, it actually doesn't matter how long the time traveler has been in the other time and space, the time of return is the same. This is actually reflected in many movies. For example, Rhodes just left, and Nebula was captured, but the changed Nebula appeared at the same time as Rhodes. And this also explains why Thanos' fleet can pass through the quantum tunnel. After all, it is the power of the level universe, and Thanos himself is a Titan scientist with extraordinary achievements, so he told Tony that not only Tony is tired of knowledge. Then, after capturing Nebula's quantum suit and space-time beacon, Thanos probably studied them for a long time in the space-time. Not only the quantum suit, but even the PIM particles may be copied by him. It's just that Nebula, as the striker, set off first and came to the Avengers base, found out the location of the Infinity Gauntlet, and then notified Thanos. Therefore, whether Thanos comes or not is not something that can be prevented here. With the technology of traveling through the quantum space, Thanos' fleet can come here by itself, and Nebula is only a guide. Finished. When the battleship broke through the roof and the sky became dark, the two Tonys also got the news that the energy connection between the infinite gems had been sorted out, and the Infinity Gauntlet made of nanomaterials was completed. I'm afraid we don't have time to use it, and if we don't get rid of them, even if we snap our fingers, the Earth may not be able to keep it. The captain of Earth-2 looked at the sky bitterly. That huge interstellar mothership was far from being comparable to the Chitauri battleship they had dealt with before. The entire coast is under its shroud, and it doesn't even need to attack. It just needs to fall down and crush it with its huge volume, and the city of New York will be completely destroyed. Can't you just use the glove to wipe out the enemy? Chenur and Wang Hao stood aside and looked at the group of people who were united, but with despair and sadness on their faces, and asked in a puzzled manner. Don't ask. Asking is just what the plot needs. Oh. Wang Hao's behavior of asking and answering made everyone in a trance for a while, as if they were living in a false world. That's right, wouldn't it be over if we snapped our fingers and knocked them out? Why go up and fight them? Ant-Man, Scott and Rhodes shouted suddenly, and then everyone looked at the captain in unison, with a look of cheating me. It seems like this is possible. Sorry, I didn't think of it just now. The hanging hearts of the Avengers suddenly fell. Although many of them have changed new equipment, it is still a bit like asking them to fight against such a space mothership. But Wang Hao shattered their illusions again. It's too late for you to think about it now. Stretching out his palm, the force field of invisible scattered, Wang Hao sighed lightly, the heat and light burst forth, a golden crow spread its wings from the kingdom of gods, and terrifying power rose from his body. Yaosho, come up and open the big one. Above the head, the terrifying streamer fell rapidly with a rate of fire denser than that of raindrops. The main guns on the battleship fired at once, and the star-killing firepower was launched. Thanos' decisiveness is not quite the same as in the movie, or in other words, this Thanos' reaction to his own destiny is different from that in the movie. Yes, there are countless parallel universes, countless parallel worlds, a different idea may lead to a completely different future. Doctor Strange uses the time gem to see a million future possibilities. Are they really just the future? Is it possible that it didn't happen? Or, in a certain parallel universe, that is reality? Obviously, the Earth-2 where Wang Hao came to is probably one of the countless failures where the Avengers were wiped out. Father, activate the star-killing firepower. a salvo, powerful enough to destroy the planet's star core. In that case, wouldn't infinite gems be destroyed as well? On the spaceship, the green-skinned Gamora is graceful but full of wildness. However, her danger can only be restrained in front of the purple sweet potato essence in front of her, manifested as submission. Daughter, if such an attack can destroy infinite gems, how can infinite gems have the power to change the entire universe? The tall and strong figure turned around slowly, and the distinctive face of purple sweet potato Jing in a suit of armor appeared. People on Earth are so stubborn, they can't see the truth clearly, and they want to fight against the destiny. In this case, let them directly turn into dust in the universe. As long as those guys don't make a move. The group of guys. Gamora looked a little puzzled, seeing what Thanos meant. Could there be any other secrets on Earth? My mission is about to be completed, and this legion will be handed over to you in the future, so I should tell you something. Seeing Gamora's doubts, Thanos sat on the throne and said slowly. Do you know my race? Gamora bowed her head respectfully. You are a great Titan. Titan, that's right, I'm a Titan, and I'm also called the Eternal. It's just because our people enjoy almost eternal life and have incomparably powerful power. Thanos clenched his fists, remembering the old days. But the Eternal race was divided into two branches a long time ago. My ancestors led a group of people to become Titans, while the other group is still named after the Eternal race. They are on Earth. What Thanos didn't say was that his father, Alars, was originally a member of the Eternal race on Earth, and later his uncle succeeded him as the leader. It was not until Titan fell in love with his mother that he finally had him. Thanos got the information about the Eternal race from his father, so he knew that there was a group of extremely powerful beings here. However, even if they make a move, I will definitely win this victory. Recalling the picture he saw from Nebula's memory, Thanos clenched his fists, and his belief became a little bit firmer. But before he got up to check his results, a strange alien with a golden spear ran in from outside his captain's room. Master, our attack has been hindered, and there is likely to be trouble. Holding the golden spear is Thanos' top general, Corvus Glaive, who soloed with the captain in the movie, and was then sent out by Vision Gang. But in fact, his combat effectiveness can be regarded as the top among the 4 Obsidian generals. Definitely the most important thing is that he is called the general and is the actual commander of the Thanos army. Hinder, Earth's technological civilization hasn't even gone out of its own home planet, how could it be able to block the attack of star-killing firepower? Beside Thanos, a guy without a nose came out and asked. Ebony Maw, if you don't believe it, just go and see for yourself. And the people on Earth can stop the Master's plan and cause us such a big obstacle. Do you still think they are vulnerable? It seems that you in the future will die unjustly. Corvus Glaive sneered, and what he said made Ebony Maw angry, but the priority was not internal fighting, but finding out what was going on. The porthole was opened, and the external projection was placed inside the battleship. Thanos and others looked at the Avengers base below the battleship. Tens of thousands of guns are fired, and each shot can directly destroy an aircraft carrier. The starship bombardment falls like raindrops, blooming countless bright fireworks. However, the fireworks show doesn't take place in the Avengers base, but in midair. Just because a round of sun was rising, the sky covered by motherships larger than a city regained its color under the radiance, and the endless radiance formed an absolute barrier, covering this incomparable. The fierce artillery fire was resisted as much as possible. The golden crow spreads its wings, and the scorching sun rises into the sky. Thanos' interstellar mothership is like a dark cloud cover, overwhelmingly crushing, but Wong Hao is like the candle of hope, shining brightly, propping up the sky with his own wings and supporting the safety of the Earth. Now you know why I believe in him, right? With him around, I feel so at ease. Tony from Earth 1 smiled at his other self. Wherever Wong Hao is, there is hope. No matter how cold and dark it is, there will always be light. As early as the departure, Wong Hao confirmed the previous deal with Tony. When the war returns, Wong Hao will set out to revive his parents. It's in return for Tony helping Wong Hao build a church, get believers, and all kinds of other help. Equivalent exchange, 10,000 strong believers around the world, hundreds of thousands or even millions of weak believers. This is indeed inseparable from Tony's strong support. Actually, I wanted to tell you the real cause of our parents' death. But now it seems that it is unnecessary. Old Tony hesitated to speak. To be honest, he is a little envious of himself in this parallel universe now. Although he also has a lovely daughter that he can't envy, even if he has to wait at least 5 years to make a villain with Pepper now, but he can see his parents again and make the family complete. Impossible to have. Okay, stop chatting, the sun god didn't let us chat here because he protected us. Tony, can the gloves be used now? Absolutely, but who will use it? We saw how Thanos used the gloves back then. Who among us can withstand such a huge force? Let me. Lebowski stepped out of the crowd, pushing Loki away with his huge belly, who had turned into a fire god, making the cheerful and lively guy burst out laughing again. Thunder runs in my blood. No, it's beer flowing inside. Looking back at the troublesome Loki, Thor Plus continued. I am the strongest Avenger, this is my mission, this is my best chance to make up for it, let me come. Come on, you are the fattest Avenger. Shut up, Loki. Lebowski roared back. If you do this again, I won't resurrect you. Anyway, that's not me, it's just a double body in the parallel universe. Loki shrugged, looking nonchalant. However, Thor Plus' emotional instability and poor state were seen by everyone. The two Tonys looked at each other and shook their heads. Sorry, Thor, I don't think you are suitable for this task. This is of great importance, and a small mistake may lead to great danger. The Infinity Gauntlet is too powerful. After all, it is a majestic force that can change the entire universe. Thor's hangover and emotional appearance made everyone very worried about whether he was competent for the user's task and could complete the goal accurately. If you say one more word, or use one wrong word, the risk is too great. I suggest we wait for our sun god to come back. There will be risks for us to use it, but he should be able to withstand this kind of power, right? Hawkeye from Earth-1 stood in front of his doppelganger, and the nano armor full of high technology and combat power on his body made the eyes of the Ronin behind him turn red. It's the endgame, and he's still holding a broken bow. Why does this guy have a battle armor to wear? Why? And Hawkeye's words reminded everyone immediately, indeed, they still have a sun god. My god's power is unparalleled, and his majesty is unpredictable. The Infinity Gauntlet is naturally not a problem for him. Loki, the Vulcan who changed into short red hair, said something cool, then found a box of ice cream from the refrigerator beside him and handed it to Chanur, the queen of his god. Chanur's eyes lit up, showing a sensible look like your kid, and then she savored it carefully. Loki, on the other hand, waited on him with a proud look, like a dog's leg. Although his personality has changed, his mind has not changed. This is his Queen of Heaven. Wang Hao is the eldest in the Kingdom of God, and the Queen of Heaven is the second child, and the power of the Pillow Wind is needless to say. Fawn is so beautiful, his god system will expand in the future, and his Vulcan will still be on top. So he didn't care about these people's affairs, he just followed Wang Hao to watch the fun. Apart from Wang Hao and Chanur, the only thing he cared about was his fateful opponent, Thor. With Loki's confirmation, the Avengers finally made a decision to hand over the Infinity Gauntlet to Wang Hao to ensure that everything is safe. There is no way, they have lost too much, but if there is any better choice, they will climb up. In the movie, Banner snapped his fingers, but there was no way to do it. They didn't know whether Banner was strong enough to withstand that force, or whether he could get lost under that force. But now, Wang Hao is sure to be able to withstand the power of the Infinity Gauntlet, so naturally it must be handed over to Wang Hao to operate. It's just that the sun god is busy now. Everyone looked up at the sky in unison. On one side, the starship's cannons were fired, and the sky was filled with flames. On the other side, the rising sun was shining brightly. In fact, what is the specific situation? They can't see clearly at all. What are they looking at when their eyes are almost shaking? Then go help, and deal with it after the trouble is solved. Avengers, assemble. The captain of Earth 2 looked solemn and shouted in a deep voice. A group of people looked resolute, and their hearts were surging under the captain's encouragement. They wished they could shoot that space battleship with a bow and arrow right now. How do we go? To be fair, I can barely withstand shooting aliens with a bow and arrow, but you don't really want me to shoot that thing with it. Come on, give me a shot. Ronan took out the bow and arrow from his back and put it in front of everyone, with a look of love. All eyes were on the bow and arrow in his hand. Can't you afford a gun? Then I'll lend you this one. Rocket Raccoon said something, and then pulled out a small pistol from the back of his butt, which was no bigger than the palm of Lin Tay. Hey, K Lin Tay, I have prepared equipment for you. Old Tony took out a small iron block and handed it to K Lin Tay. He also felt that he was a bit too much. After all these years, he never thought of giving his old brother some heavy firepower. A group of people are flying around, and he is the only one running around with a broken bow. It's really difficult for him. In the end, in the whole room, except for Luna Vulcan, 2 Thors, 2 Banners, and a captain, everyone else put on battle suits, ready to attack to support Wang Hao and solve the trouble of turning around. Among them, K Lin Tay burst into tears. It was not easy, it was too difficult for him to go directly from the equipment of the primitive era to Star Wars. Next to him, Hawkeye, who hadn't experienced the pain, comforted his doppelganger, and everyone officially set off. Whoosh whoosh. Avengers in battle armor flew into the sky one by one, and Lebowski, who was about to take off, suddenly saw another person on the ground. Steve, why aren't you leaving? And where's your armor? Seeing Thor with a big belly, the captain from Earth 1 chuckled, and then spread his fingers apart, making a gesture Thor is very familiar with. I don't need armor, I have this. Familiar with the touch, the captain waved it, and then felt something was wrong. He turned his head and looked, and was suddenly taken aback. Ah, where's Little Hammer? Looking at the huge amounts of Stormbreaker in his hand, the captain was a little confused, and Thor on the opposite side was even more confused. This axe belongs to him, why did it get into the captain's hand? He quickly stretched out his hand and spread his 5 fingers apart, wanting to call back his precious axe, but after a while, it was a small hammer that flew over. Oh Mjolnir, I miss you so much. Mjolnir, that's great, I'm still worthy of you. Thor stroked the little hammer in his hand. This little guy has been with him for thousands of years, and he has had feelings for him for a long time. It's a pity that he was crushed by Hela's fool. He was sad for a long time because of this, and he didn't expect to meet again today. No, why is Mjolnir here with you? Ah, I knew it, you can lift it. Thor yelled, when everyone was trying to lift the hammer at the Stark building banquet. He thought he saw Mjolnir move a little bit, but when the captain said no, he thought it was his own illusion. He drank too much, so much so that I misread it. Unexpectedly, the captain deliberately said that he couldn't lift it because he didn't want to embarrass others. It's just that the captain in front of him is the captain from Earth -1. He didn't understand what Thor was talking about. He always thought that Wang Hao could lift the hammer. After all, the first contact with Mjolnir was given to him by Wang Hao, and then Odin also said, to see if Wang Hao's will was given to him. After the New York War, he still wanted to return it to Thor, but Thor said that Wang Hao did not agree and refused with tears. Forget it, the past is the past, come on, give me back the big one, and give you the small one. Thinking about the past for a while, Thor handed Mjolnir to the captain, and then brought Stormbreaker over. Aha! The thunder roared, and a thunderbolt struck his head, and then Thor's image changed drastically. The beard and messy hair on his face were neatly combed, and he was even braided into a small braid at the chin. On his body, the baggy pajamas became shiny armor. Walk! The axe swung, and Thor soared into the air, taking one last look at Mjolnir. I no longer have to be carried away by the hammer. In the past, he used Mjolnir to fly in front, and he followed behind with the hammer, but Stormbreaker gave him the ability to fly freely. This is growth and a farewell to the past. Seeing Thor go up into the air, the captain scratched his head, then held up the small hammer as well, and thunder fell. Wearing a shiny armor on his body, the small hammer shook, and with a whoosh, the captain flew out. Goddess, shall we go? I feel that their other actions are unnecessary. With the strength of my god, why do we need their help? On the ground, seeing that even Dr. Banner and Hulk turned into stupid giants and jumped up, Loki looked at Chinur obsequiously and asked for instructions. One more box. Okay. Another box of ice cream was handed over, and Chinur opened it while looking at the sky. Wang Hao big brother wants to play for a while, let him play for a while, we can just watch here. Also, that glove looks very powerful, you go and get it for me. There is a cold side to Chinur's personality, but Wang Hao also likes lively, cute, and eccentric girls, so Chinur has the appearance of a girl next door in addition to the image of a goddess. The Avengers take to the skies to land on Thanos' ship, while the Infinity Gauntlet lands on the ground for Friday's safekeeping. After receiving Ch'nur's instruction, Loki did not hesitate, even ran over and took out the gloves from the machine. At the moment in the sky, Wang Hao, who was suffering an unprecedented violent attack, agitated his divine power. According to Hoshin's calculation, his energy quickly evaporated and absorbed all the attacks. Such a powerful artillery attack, even if it is just the aftermath, is enough to destroy everything on the ground under his feet. This is an interstellar fleet that battles the universe, and it is not comparable to the forces of interstellar bandits like the Chitauri fleet. Ronan is the highest accuser of the Kree, equivalent to the highest military officer, and the Kree is the overlord of the universe whose power spans several galaxies, and what they dominate is as large as several galaxies. But that kind of military strength was also hindered when attacking Xandar Star, and Ronan even died on Xandar Star, which shows that Xandar Star, as a well-known free market in the universe, relies on real skills. But with such a force, Xandar, which was able to defend against the attack of the Kree Empire, was directly blood-bathed in the face of Thanos' fleet. So it is not for nothing that Thanos is called the overlord of the universe. A single salvo can directly destroy a planet. The scale of this kind of war far exceeds the imagination of humans on Earth. Fortunately, Wang Hao endured it. Although a lot of energy has been consumed, Lord Earth is still safe and sound, and all the world is peaceful and peaceful. But it is not Wang Hao's style to be beaten blindly. When he saw that Thanos' starship still did not intend to cease fire, Wang Hao's eyes flashed fiercely, and the temperature of the flames around him suddenly rose, and even the space began to be blocked. The blazing heat burned and twisted. If you dare to shoot Lousy in the face, then I want to see if you can withstand my anger. The palm stretched out, and above the real sky, the wheel hung there quietly. The sun, just like in the past billions of years, seemed to sense something. Then, the sun's rays in the sky of the entire northern hemisphere converged, and the whole world fell into darkness. Only there is light above the sky here. Sword. Once the sword is released, the Changhong pierces the sun. The shocking Changhong stretched out from the direction of the great sun, and the holy sword formed by the extreme concentration of endless rays of light suddenly fell down. Boom. The Avengers who had just lifted off didn't have time to react, only to see the surroundings suddenly dark, and then stabbed a sword like the sun. A huge starship as vast as a city could not escape disaster in front of this sword. The holy sword attack is one sword, two sections. A huge amount of transparent hole appeared in the middle of the starship, and then there was a clear cracking sound. Accompanied by explosions and flames, the huge starship slowly split open, and one left and one right were divided into two halves and fell to the ground. Scary. What? Ch'nur raised her small head and looked at Loki next to her. It's nothing. In order to follow my god, I was reading a novel by the flower planter recently. When I saw this sentence, I thought it was very suitable for the current situation. Loki sighs. He can also shoot down such a starship, but not in this way, this kind of domineering way. I am afraid that only his god can do it. Well, it's so terrifying. It really fits Wang Hao, big brother. Look at this sword, it's so handsome. Ch'nur's little head was straightened, and the smile on her face was bright, like a bright moon hanging in the sky, bright and boundless. I'm so handsome. In midair, Wang Hao said seriously. The effect of this sword was better than he expected. Originally, he thought that the battleship should have opened a protective barrier, and the energy he mobilized in a hurry was equivalent to the power of a few nuclear bombs, so he wouldn't be able to shoot it down directly. But what he didn't know was that Wang Hao's move to protect the entire Avengers alliance base like the rising sun made Thanos very angry, so he mobilized all the resources and even closed the protective shield, just to protect the entire Avengers alliance base. Wang Hao shot down. And this just gave this shocking sword, Guan Ri Changhong, a chance to perform. One sword, two breaks. The extremely huge starship fell quickly, but its size was too large, so in the eyes of others, its falling speed was very slow. However, the thunderous noise proved that the sky-like situation was not a dream. Quickly evacuate, quick, Tony and the others shouted loudly in the communication channel. Kinetic energy is the product of mass and velocity. The mass of this starship is more than tens of millions of tons. Falling down at the speed of free fall, hitting the ground will at least feel a magnitude 5 earthquake all over the East Coast. And if they get too close, they are undoubtedly looking for death, and the aftermath of the impact is enough to exhaust the protective energy of the armor. There was no major damage in the movie, firstly because of the movie effect, and secondly, it was smashed by Captain Marvel and fell into several pieces, and the place where the battleship fell was not on land, but in the sea. The Avengers scattered like birds and beasts, but they had just evacuated, and before they went far, they saw another scene that they would never forget. The starship was shot down, and there was no target to attack him. Wang Hao had already restrained his energy, and after seeing the starship was about to fall to the ground, causing a large-scale impact, he also realized that the starship could not just fall down like this. Calculate the attack position, calculate the energy output power, the target has been marked, and the Holy Sword is being manufactured. At the moment, the whole world lost its sunlight and it was night. At the moment. Sword. After Hao-Shen's calculation, Wang Hao aimed at several positions of the starship wreckage, and all the solar energy in the world was gathered, and then turned into a holy sword and slashed out. Sword energy gallops for 30,000 miles. One sword is radiant and chills 19 continents. My sword must have a distance of 10,000 miles. Wang Hao laughed loudly. The golden holy sword pierced the sky and slashed towards Thanos' ship. One sword strike, the second sword came again. The terrifying energy tide rippled in the sky, turning into a beautiful aurora and filling the air. And in the aurora, the huge starship was cut into pieces, and under the action of gravity, deflected by the holy sword slash, it fell neatly and precisely into the sea next to it. In an instant, the waves surged, and the water level along the surrounding coast rose several meters, submerging the embankment. However, the overwhelming impact of that day disappeared, and the seawater would eventually recede, while the people on land were safe and sound. It's also a god, why don't you have this ability? Rhodes was suspended in midair, and asked Lebowski beside him, who gave him a blank stare, but his lips trembled for a long time, but he still couldn't say anything. He can also kill a space battleship with an axe, but this is a mothership, and the battleship he can kill is equivalent to an egg laid by this thing, which is equivalent to an aircraft on an aircraft carrier. How big is his axe? The muzzle of any cannon in this thing can make him walk around in it. Is he able to cut it? If you want him to chop, you must at least give him an axe that can become 10,000 meters long. However, they are all divided into pieces, so have they been resolved? Someone in the channel asked. Although this interstellar battleship was shot down, the key is the people inside. Are the people inside still alive? And it seems that there is no need to think too much about it. Soon, on the display panel in front of them, images of creatures marked as enemies appeared on the coast. And this amount is a bit much. Because Wang Hao's slash is relatively neat, and Thanos' ship is too large, so that there is a lot of space that is not damaged, and the cabin where the combatants are and the place where various fighters and combat weapons are parked become a part of it. The falling of blocks. In the end, there are still a large number of people who survived. After all, this battleship is too big, equivalent to the file size of a large city, and it is still three-dimensional. After all, only a battleship of this size can be called an interstellar mothership and can undertake the task of interstellar warfare. Looks like it's our turn to make a move. The Avengers looked dignified, and then a dozen figures flew towards the coast together. In the sea water, fighter planes flew out of the water, and figures emerged from the shadows one by one. Boom! The surface of the water broke, and a figure leapt high, then landed heavily on the ground. The tall figure, purple skin, and those fierce eyes are none other than Thanos. And at the moment, his eyes were all focused on the sky, on that unusually conspicuous but incomparably stalwart figure. Owner, Corvus Glaive appeared right behind Thanos. They also looked a little embarrassed, but more frightened and fearful. They ran rampant in the universe, and the powerful warship that dominated one side was cut off by a breakthrough by a single person. The sword formed by the gathering brilliance of the sky is bound to become an indelible nightmare in their hearts. Mobilize all the surviving troops to attack me. Fight with them, disperse in all directions, and attack the city over there. I don't believe that he even attacked his own people this time. As the wolf that ruthless people fear, Thanos quickly made a judgment. Well, aren't you trying to protect civilians? Don't you want to save the world, save the universe? Then give it a try and see if you kill faster or my people kill faster. The troops that hurriedly climbed out of the water quickly dispersed, and the Avengers were surprised to find that, except for a small part that went towards the Avengers' base, the troops that had fought them in Wakanda began to disperse as soon as they appeared. Run. No, they are going to the city. The trajectory of the action was quickly calculated, and the satellite also captured the traces of Thanos' men on the edge of the nearby city. There are too many, we don't have time to defend. In New York, Chidori's main target is the Avengers, and they can only come out of the wormhole. In Wakanda, there are protective barriers, there are border defenses, and civilians are also safe in the rear. But now, the enemy broke into pieces and directly entered the city not far from them. Some even invaded directly from the bottom of the water, so how do they defend? But before they finished speaking, they saw the light reappear, and the sun in the sky became shining again, attracting everyone's attention. Ocean, start counting all targets, use all energy to create defense and pursuit, and make sure to intercept every enemy. Thanos' petty tricks are dirty, and that's because he's not a fighter for glory, it's because he's a victorious hero. In order to win, Cao asked his subordinates to use human corpses as rations, and Thanos didn't mind using civilians to draw Wong Hao's attention. Do it. All arrows are fired. Countless sharp arrows of light fell from the sky, precisely hitting every Thanos army that was trying to break into the city, or had already broken into the city. Under Ocean's incomparable computing power, supported by Wong Hao's majestic and boundless divine power, a scene that can only be seen as a dream by ordinary people is being staged. With a big hand closing, all enemies will be wiped out in the blink of an eye. Those who run in all directions cannot escape. Those who charge bravely cannot break through. Thanos thought that such means would be enough to stop Wong Hao, but he underestimated Wong Hao, the power of a great god. God is not some powerful high-level life form, God is God. And the glory of the sun god shines on this land, and shines on everyone who is bathed in the sun and laments the beauty and hope of life. On the ground, the battle has also begun. The silos of the legions are just to attract Wong Hao's attention and distract him. And to achieve this goal is for Thanos to quickly approach the building, approach the already collected Infinity Gauntlet, infinite gems. Just give him access to the infinite gems and he'll be able to fulfill his mission, complete his quest, end this universe and start a new, hopeful world. Boom! Shocking thunder descended from the sky. Holding Stormbreaker in hand, Thor roared and slashed Washan Mountain with a simple and direct force, that is, raised the axe above his head with both hands, and then slashed forward. What? As the attack was approaching, Thanos did not rush, raised the machete with the paddle in his hand and headed upstream, hitting the sky with a blaze of fire. Boom! Thor flew upside down in response, and the thunder blazed out, causing all the generals around Thanos to be in a trance, and Thanos' knees gave way, and he half knelt on the ground. But he stands in the way. The machete that can even chop the captain's shield is really something. Although it doesn't have the power of the storm, it can still withstand it in terms of its hardness. Keep running, leave me alone, bring me the infinite gems. Thanos gave instructions to the left and right, General Obsidian nodded, and rushed forward together, while Thanos put on his helmet, and then looked fiercely at Thor who got up again, Tony who fell from the sky, and Earth 2 who surrounded him. Avengers Alliance everyone. You guys, you are stubborn, but you told me one thing. No matter how random the people I kill are, there will always be people who will miss them. So this time, I will directly destroy this universe and create a new one, better one. The oar and machete flew up, and Thanos didn't intend to listen to the nonsense of the crowd, so he slashed directly. The blood blade flew, and Thor roared and waved Stormbreaker again to meet him. In the past 5 years, what Thanos did has tortured him every moment and kept him awake at night. Now he finally has the opportunity to ask for everything from him again. Beside him, old Tony's nano armor began to change, becoming taller, full of edges and corners, full of aggressiveness, looking like a little titan. It's just that he didn't rush up, but various weapons appeared from various parts of his body, there were a lot of muzzles of various guns, and the sound of energy storage kept coming and going. Boom boom boom. The sound of artillery fire and thunder rang together, and the battle situation entered a fever right from the beginning. Thanos has the Avengers of Earth 2 to deal with, and Obsidian 4 also has his own opponents. The captain took the lead. Wearing armor, he held a hammer and landed with the power of thunder. Although Thor on Earth 1 did not have a hammer, he was still a powerful god originally, just like in his third movie. Can even overwhelm the Hulk in hand-to-hand combat. The appearance of the two was just the beginning, and then Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Panther and others all appeared and stopped them. Kaylin Tay, you go and deal with those miscellaneous fish, they leave them to us to deal with. Seeing the soldiers who were constantly running towards the Avengers base, the captain issued a combat order, and the same was true for Thanos in front, leaving only the big three, and the rest left to deal with the miscellaneous soldiers who were still emerging around. Soldier against soldier, king against king. General Obsidian 4 quickly found his opponent, and everyone fell into a fierce battle. You took everything from me. Thor roared and slashed out with an axe, thunder bursts, but Thanos dodged it for a moment, and then fought back. A set of smooth 3-in-a-row cuts forced Thor back half a step. Thanos took the time to glance at the furious Thor, and vaguely felt that he was very similar to the guy who cut off his head that he saw in Nebula's memory file. Picture. I don't know you at all. The sword was faster than the thunder, and Thanos charged forward, and he soon realized that Thor with the Stormbreaker was his greatest threat and strongest opponent. So he made a decisive decision and let go of the defense behind him. Relying on the hard armor and powerful Titan body, Thanos forced Tony and the old captain who put on the nano armor to bombard him continuously. Then, under the astonished eyes of the two, Thanos endured the pain in his body, and with the power of this bombardment, he rushed to Thor at an even faster speed. The big knife slashed down rapidly, several times in succession. Thor couldn't bear it, and was directly shaken, and then Thanos picked the tip of the knife, and Stormbreaker came out of Thor's hand. Then came Thanos' murderous and domineering blow. Not good. Thanos has armor attached to his body. Although his Titan body is powerful, it is not really indestructible. Technology has developed the power that can be used in the universe to the extreme. As long as there is enough firepower, even a god can knock you down. So Thanos had been dodging and blocking Tony's artillery attacks in the battle before, but what they didn't expect was that Thanos would be so decisive, suddenly give up defense, and exchange some injuries for Thor's lore. Stormbreaker was picked up, and Thor's body didn't have time to react. With this knife cut, the answer to the question of whether the god in Tony and others' hearts will die will be revealed. And Thor looked at the machete that was slashed at the head, and thought of its strength that could compete with Stormbreaker, and also expected his own ending. He had stretched out his hand as hard as he could to recall the tomahawk, but the speed at which the tomahawk flew back obviously couldn't keep up with the speed at which Thanos chopped it down. At this moment, he almost shouted in his heart that my life is over. Boom. However, Thanos' knife did not cut down. A dazzling flame swept from the corner of the battlefield, and the blazing life gushed out like a fountain, pushing the figure as fast as lightning. In the nick of time, a body inserted sideways, knocked Thanos away abruptly, and saved Thor from a certain death situation. Loki. Thor, who escaped from the dead, still had blood on his face, and he looked at the person who rescued him in disbelief. You're welcome, brother, although you are not from the same universe, but your image has made me like you so much. So I decided to save your life. Standing in front of Thor, Loki with short red hair ignited a fiery flame in his hands, and the violent and unstable power of the flame began to emerge from all over his body. One more will have no effect. However, seeing Loki who broke into the battle group, Thanos glanced at the scorched black on the armor, and said without changing his face. Really? Then maybe you made the wrong idea, not one, but two. The cool moonlight appeared at some point, covering Thanos inside. Thanos was startled, and just about to look up, he found that his body was unable to move at some point. A beautiful figure slowly fell from the sky and appeared in front of Thanos. The sudden change in Thanos' eyes was not because of Ch'nur's beauty. He couldn't notice Ch'nur's appearance at all under the influence of magic. What he noticed was that in Ch'nur's hand, the Infinity Gauntlet was being constantly tossed by her, as if it was a very interesting toy. You guy, you are ugly, and you like to kill people indiscriminately. You are so noisy. Why can't you be quiet and let us sit down and have a good talk? Ch'nur tilted her head, her beautiful eyes stared at Thanos in front of her, Chong's nose wrinkled slightly, and she hummed cutely. Then she smiled and picked out a green gemstone from the glove, and clenched it tightly in her hand. The energy surged, and even Ch'nur's eyes were stained with green. Degenerate. As if realizing something, Thanos roared when the bright girl appeared in front of him. No, but this obviously doesn't help. Thanos conforms to all the symbols of a great villain, and his image and performance after his appearance really makes Chinur feel unfavorable. So, after picking out the green gemstone, Chinur gave Thanos a whimper. The mysterious power of time acts on Thanos' body. Although he is struggling hard, infinite gems is what he has been trying to pursue. If its power is not stronger than him, does he still need to pursue it? The scars on the skin are fading, the skin is smoother, and the physical strength is more vigorous, but at the same time, Thanos' experience, Thanos' knowledge, and all the things that Thanos has gained in the accumulation of time are disappearing. That's right, the humming technique cast by Chinur doesn't just affect the body. This spell is more like bringing different stages of the dead from the long river of time to the present, rather than simply changing the body. The effect of the spell continued. Thanos' smooth and tight skin began to tighten and become tender, his bones began to shrink, the closed seams reopened, his strength was diminishing, and his figure was slowly shrinking. The gigantic Titan, the overlord of the battlefield, returns to his teenage years. Oh, the Avengers looked at Thanos' hands that had begun to become immature and weak, and there was finally a look of surprise in their eyes. They watched helplessly as the purple sweet potato, who was somewhat taller than Hulk, became smaller and smaller, from a prime of life to a young man, then to a teenager and a juvenile, and finally turned into a miniature little purple sweet potato. It turned into a purple Titan baby with the same ugly face. This is definitely not because of the shrinking function of the PIM particles they used on Thanos, but because of the power of time. Beep. Yin-Yang technique, a spell that directly degenerates you into a baby. Great Queen, under your moonlight, even the overlord of the universe will surrender. Loki bowed his head and complimented Chinur, who was calm, making her face show a smug look. And the giants of the Avengers Alliance on Earth too looked at Thanos, a baby with a naked buttocks on the ground, with a word clearly written on his face, bewildered. Is this solved? Tony and the captain exchanged glances, then looked at Thor, who got up from the ground, his face covered in dust and blood. By the way, why didn't Strange use this move back then? We fought so hard, wouldn't it be over if he just used this move? Tony couldn't help complaining. Time gem is so powerful, if Strange used it like this on Titan, how could there be so many things later? Although I don't know what your situation was like at the time, but he should have obtained a lot of gems at that time, right? Space gem, reality gem, all have enough power to offset the influence of time gem, and you think anyone can use this power solidified? This is the great queen of heaven, moon god. How can Strange compare her divine power? The number one Luna blow. Loki looked at Tony with contempt, but it was indeed as he said, if you use other infinite gems in your body, dealing with this kind of time power is not as difficult as imagined. Definitely, the most important thing is that different people use it. The birth of Chinur almost exhausted Wang Hao's reserve of wish power, and the last one to enjoy this kind of treatment was Haoshan, Wang Hao's god self-personality. Then Wang Hao shared a lot of divine power and authority with Chinur. In terms of strength, Chinur was not inferior to Thor, the heir to the king of the gods. Loki only got part of the power of Wang Hao's flame law, while Chinur's powers include light, domination, time and space, stars, yin, occult and so on. In time, Chinur can grow into a god king who is not inferior to Odin, Zeus, and Ra, and unlike Thor, who inherited Odin's power to become a god king, Chinur grew up by himself. From this point of view, Chinur's potential is still higher than Thor's. Thank you. The captain bowed slightly towards Chinur. She was the same as Wang Hao. There was no need to help them. Wang Hao saved their lives by resisting the gun salvo this time, and Chinur's attack also saved their life. They must thank Wang Hao in the future, but it doesn't mean they don't need to thank Chinur now. Then what do we do now? I didn't say much thanks, the timing is not right now. Looking at the baby Thanos on the ground, the big three looked at each other in blank dismay. Just kill it. Although it's a bit inhumane, it's a good way. Anyway, the International Human Rights Association has been wiped out by him with a snap of his fingers, and no one will care about it. But the question is what to do with the chaos around. Once Thanos is dead, they are even more unrestrained, and this is bound to be a protracted battle. Wang Hao stopped most of the people rushing towards the city, but there were still many who did not rush towards the city. And none of them can be handled by the Earth Army. The Avengers can't stop doing nothing and play hide and seek with those people outside every day, right? Let Wang Hao deal with them and I'm too embarrassed to speak up. I'm bothering them so much and I still ask them for help. How shameless. So this is another long game. And the best way to do that right now is to have Thanos surrender and have him order all alien armies to surrender. I think we're turning him back, but in a manageable state. Teenager. No, teenagers are rebellious, and they're in trouble if they'd rather die than surrender. What about old age? The three giants looked at each other, and then nodded together. Hello, the elderly. He has experienced vicissitudes. He knows how to advance and retreat, understands gains and losses, and is easy to understand current affairs. His strength has also weakened. It is enough for us to control him. When the time comes, an order will be given, and the war will be won without fighting. After some discussion, the big three all nodded in affirmation of this plan. In their view, even a god king like Odin will become weak and unbearable under the power of time. No matter how strong Thanos is, once he gets old, his strength will definitely drop a lot. If they join forces again at that time, Thanos, who was difficult to deal with before, will naturally not be their opponent. In fact, the best solution was to Wang Hao. Thanos, the biggest threat, was restrained by them, and those stragglers seemed to be controlled by Wang Hao. The scattered miscellaneous soldiers can be cleared up. But they don't want to bother Wang Hao all the time. Unlike the Avengers of Earth 1, the Avengers of this world have experienced so much, they have seen ups and downs, and they have come all the way by themselves, and they have not been influenced by Wang Hao like the Avengers of Earth 1 so deep. Second, using the Infinity Gauntlet has side effects. They've seen Thanos, a guy who hammers them, snap his fingers twice before he's almost gone. It is already very, very troublesome for Wang Hao to snap his fingers to bring back the disappearing person. After all, in their opinion, this matter has nothing to do with Wang Hao from the beginning to the end. He is a cosmic god, and has nothing to do with human beings or life in the universe. Thanos should eat and drink whether he snaps his fingers or not. One needs to be content. Each of them is an elite, an existence at the pinnacle, so they naturally know the consequences of lack of greed. For example, the current May government and Hydra on EARTH-1 provoked Wang Hao for a while because of their cheap hands, and they are almost wiped out. Those people who ordered it at the beginning didn't need Wang Hao to do it themselves. After the arrest, they were directly made into Momo, just to vent their anger on Wang Hao. And they naturally don't want their insatiable greed to make Wang Hao angry. They really count on Wang Hao for everything. They just hang up here, then it will be a big problem if Wang Hao doesn't even snap his fingers for them at that time. Dear lady, can I trouble you to turn him into an old man? The war here can't end with him like this. After the discussion, the captain, as the spokesman, came to Chunur and asked respectfully. No problem, just look at mine. Chunur smiled and replied. Chunur can understand the captain's request, and she agrees with these people's ideas. They can take the initiative to share the worries of Wang Hao over there. To Chunur, they are considered sensible and sensible. So Chunur naturally wouldn't refuse this request. So she held the time gem again, and activated its power again. But what she didn't know was that it was because of this action that she was pressed on the leg by Wang Hao and spanked several times that night. As time passed, the most magical and mysterious power in the world began to operate, and it landed on the purple ignorant baby on the ground. In the rapid growth of the power of time, children, teenagers, youth, adults and then old age, Thanos spent his life in a few seconds, and a purple sweet potato with white beard and hair appeared in front of everyone in front of. What the hell? In the sky, Wang Hao, who was still using Hoshin to clear up the alien legions everywhere, suddenly frowned. An extremely powerful aura appeared on the battlefield under his feet. This aura was so powerful that his heart skipped a beat. Although he knew that this was not the arrival of some cosmic god, but this level of power has far surpassed Odin's heavenly fathers, god kings. Sweeping his gaze, everything on the field entered his eyes. Wang Hao quickly saw Chunur holding an infinity gauntlet and a time gem, and then the guy standing not far in front of her. Waterfa, Emperor Thanos. The figure moved slightly, and the photon teleportation was activated. Wang Hao appeared beside Chunur in the blink of an eye. However, a tall figure also appeared at the same time. Boom! The two palms intersected, and the terrifying shockwave spread, as if a mushroom had been planted, and the entire battlefield was suddenly silent, and then the impact of the energy tide caused everyone to lose control. With a wave of his palm, protecting Chenur behind his back, Wang Hao quickly snatched a few gems from the aftermath, but unfortunately, 3 gems fell into the opposite one with white beard and hair, who looked like "I'm getting old, don't touch me again and I'll lie down" in Thanos' hand. Just as soon as they fought, the shockwave produced by the collision of the two smashed the Infinity Gauntlet into a Momo. After all, this is an inferior version made of nano armor, not Uru metal made of the same material as the small hammer Hefeng Storm battle axe, the real Infinity Gauntlet. Looking around again, the big 3 were on the ground, they were the closest, and this round of impact was equivalent to being bombarded by a mushroom bomb. However, Thor's body was strong enough to withstand it, and Tony's armor was in combat mode and barely survived. The captain carried the shield and withstood the main frontal impact, and the rest of the energy was absorbed by the armor. So from Wang Hao's perception, the 3 people's breath of life is quite strong, and they just can't die. But the key to the question now is not whether they will die or not, but whether this Emperor Thanos will die or not. Emperor Thanos, I used to read comics, except for the one with the heart of the universe, which was regarded as a personal unlimited cheat, and the best record of purple sweet potato essence is probably the one with Emperor Thanos. Wang Hao thought to himself. As for what record? After slaughtering the universe and killing the entire Earth, there is only one Ghost Rider left among the countless superheroes, and in the end, because he was convinced by his power, he became his #1 pony. Does that count? Destroying half of life in the universe with infinite gems is not ruthless enough, but killing the entire universe with your own fists is ruthless. And this is the Emperor Thanos. Everyone else is becoming more and more useless as they get older. Only this purple sweet potato essence has ushered in the peak of life after old age. Is it the power of Time Gem? Looking at the green gemstone in his hand, Wang Hao quickly understood the ins and outs of the matter. Thanos is of the Eternal family, so he will not age, and his current appearance looks old, but in fact his physical strength will not be weakened because of this, and his physical strength is still at its peak. The biggest effect of time on him is not to make him weak, but to make him extremely powerful. Knowledge, wisdom, skills, everything, he has reached the peak. He was originally a genius, the most outstanding scientist on Titan, but now, he should be the most outstanding scientist in the entire universe. Maybe there are also magician, warrior, and various other miscellaneous titles. Basically, the pinnacle that a life can reach without transcending its own universe is the current state of Thanos. This is why Wang Hao can sense his strength. Thanos has great potential. The Eternals can call themselves Protoss, and Thanos is a different kind among the Eternals. His ability amazed everyone in the same race. Even in his prime, he has power beyond Thor and knowledge ahead of Loki. In fact, his age is much younger than these two genuine Protoss. So it is conceivable that as long as it grows normally, Thanos will inevitably become a powerful existence comparable to Odin. Go to the side first. Wang Hao turned his head and whispered. Afterwards, the palms were clenched tightly, and the power of space transmitted, sending Chenur far away. And in his hand, he also holds a time-space gem and a soul gem. But Thanos grabs the reality, mind, and power stones just in the nick of time. 3 gems versus 3 gems, regardless of personal strength. This battle is troublesome, but only a moment later Wang Hao laughed. Trouble, it's the trouble that makes the most sense. If he gets crushed with a single shot, then what's the point? It's been so long, and it's hard to meet an opponent who is worthy of a shot and has a comparable level. It's time to loosen your muscles and bones. And Wang Hao's change didn't cause even the slightest turmoil in Thanos' expression. A guy who slaughtered the entire universe, what else can make him feel turbulent? The battle is over. It was Wang Hao who made the first move. In terms of fighting skills, he must be inferior to this old purple potato who has lived and fought for who knows how long. As for the fighting skills he knows, the most practical one is to strike first. Space twist. Even without the Infinity Gauntlet, both Wang Hao and Thanos can freely use the power of infinite gems. In an instant, the invisible spatial blade suddenly appeared beside Thanos, and then crossed it. But nothing cuts through. The sharp blade that can cut everything still touches the things that can't be cut. Illusory. Thanos' body twisted like a dream, the ether penetrated his body, and he unleashed the power of TIE particles. He disappeared and turned into a virtual existence. Since he didn't exist, he couldn't be chopped up. You still have the golden body, don't you? This state is exactly the same as opening a statuette in a certain game. Can't be selected, can't be attacked, definitely can't be attacked, and can't make attacks. Interesting. The corner of Wang Hao's mouth raised, time fluctuated, countless Wang Hao walked out of his body, and then a full 60 Wang Hao formed a circle, surrounding Thanos in the middle. In 1 minute, 60 seconds, one time remnant in each second, the skills learned from the Flash are used in this moment. Sword. 60 holy swords driven by the divine power in Wang Hao's own body slashed at Thanos. This sword is enough to cut the entire earth in half, and its power is like opening up the world. However, the purple radiance dyed Thanos' whole body, and with one punch, his strength increased by 100 million times. Boom! A singularity was created in the void, and the entire American continent turned into nothingness. This time, not to mention the big three, everyone in the two Avengers alliances died. But in the next second, time is reversed, the Earth is intact, tens of billions of lives are intact, and everything returns to the moment before the attack. It appears that Wang Hao saved the world, but it was actually his attack that was once again neutralized by Thanos. Reality against space, strength against time, what the hell, Soul Gem has no attack power. Wang Hao cursed secretly. Soul Gem is the most special infinite gem, but it also caused it to have no attack assistance at all. But it's not useless, Soul Gem guards the soul, Thanos can't use Mind Gem to attack him. But not to me, not to others. Wang Hao swept his gaze, and all the surviving beings on the ground and outside the Avengers Alliance base stood up, with a strange light in their eyes, and then rushed towards Wang Hao. Get out of here, Wang Hao yelled, and the space twisted for a while, pulling Thanos to send him away, away from the Earth, away from this star field. However, when the power of the reality gem was activated, Thanos' figure fell into nothingness and became non-existent. Since it does not exist, it cannot be selected, and it cannot be attacked. But this is in Wang Hao's calculation. Although Thanos opened the golden body, it does not mean that the same is true for the Earth. In the blink of an eye, the Earth, no, the whole solar system disappeared from the current space position, and the whole Orion arm of the Milky Way disappeared, and it appeared in another corner of the universe. Now you can fight freely. Seeing Thanos, whose golden body ended, Wang Hao smiled, and the three gems merged into his body, and then with a big wave of his hand, a fixed star tens of thousands of light years away suddenly moved over. Come, come, please taste what it means to burn the sky. Huge amounts of fixed star crushed it head-on, and under Wang Hao's control, endless energy filled this space. Hao-Shen quickly calculated the variable value of the space quantity, while Wang Hao displayed his ability wantonly. Touching fixed star for the first time, but unfortunately, this fixed star is about to explode. I want to see how much energy you have to squander. The reason why infinite gems needs 6 together to be nearly invincible is that they complement each other. Thanos has the power gem and the reality gem and seems to be invincible. No matter whether it is physical or magical power, it is impossible to harm him, but the whole fixed star hits him. How much energy support is needed to turn it into an illusion woolen cloth? Fixed star is not enough, what about supernova? Blast me. Who said black holes are the scariest objects in the universe? The person who said this must have never seen a supernova. If the sun of the Earth releases all the energy it has released in 10 billion years in just a few weeks or even a few days and seconds, what kind of terrifying scene will it be? The most shining celestial body in the universe is not a fixed star, but a supernova. To use all one's own in exchange for a moment of brilliance, this is the glory of a supernova, and it is also the ultimate horror that any spaceship sailing in the universe can't avoid. Black hole, as long as you don't provoke it, as long as you don't get close to its narrow range, then you will be fine. After all, a black hole will only absorbent close to its own matter. If there is no matter close to it, it will not say where it is going to fly, but stay there quietly and enjoy its own time. If black holes are really so terrible, where will there be stars shining in the universe? The center of every galaxy is almost a black hole, but the incomparably huge gravitational force has a limit and scope of action. If you can swallow it again, won't it be over if I don't get close to you? But a supernova is an explosion, and unleashing a glorious bloom, a burst of energy that is almost impossible to avoid once you discover it. The matter erupted at the speed of light, throws everything in a fixed star far away, and the range of radiation is simply not comparable to the gravity of a black hole. So Wang Hao is very curious, how will Thanos resist this kind of offensive now? Under his control, this still young fixed star has already started to collapse from its inner core, just like a boxer starting to accumulate strength, just waiting for that fatal punch to strike. And Thanos can't escape at all. This space has been locked by him. Maybe Thanos has learned magic, has special technology, and many of them have space jumping skills. But now it's unavailable. He can only bear this kind of attack here. And such an attack Wang Hao can come again many times, causing a fixed star to explode as easy as cutting off a hair of his own. But how long can the golden body of Thanos survive the supernova, the most terrifying energy explosion in the universe? In just a few minutes, the fixed star began to disintegrate, and then, the blazing flame turned into a streamer and flew into the distance. Supernova exploded. At the same time, in the distant space, a spacecraft shrouded in strange matter is rapidly approaching the original position of the solar system. This time it's its turn, the star's turn to become food for the great planet devourer. There are still 3 jump lengths to reach the Chiwu fixed star system. The intelligence system on the spaceship reminded its owner, but soon, it sent out another reminder. Warning, a supernova explosion has been detected, and it is recommended to avoid it immediately. Warning, a supernova explosion has been detected. Titan sitting on the chair suddenly sat up straight, and then looked at the screen in front of him in disbelief. That fixed star, I remember it has a lifespan of 5 billion years, how could it explode? The great planet devourer Garland, he came to the Earth once hundreds of years ago, and he knows the situation of the solar system very well, but how could there be a supernova explosion here? But in any case, even if he is one of the creation gods and the ultimate existence of the universe, it would be a very unwise choice to insist on the power of a supernova explosion, which would consume a lot of energy that he already lacks. Retreat, retreat for me. The spaceship that had just approached the periphery of the original solar system immediately turned around and began to jump in time and space, and as soon as it left, the shockwave of the supernova explosion had spread here, destroying everything along the way. Not knowing that his wave of operations directly scared away a certain god of creation who never had enough to eat and was always beaten, Wang Hao's attention was still on Thanos. At the moment of the eruption, the purple light was already on. Facing the overwhelming impact of energy and matter, Thanos immediately chose to use the effect of the power gem to defend. But soon he found that it was a waste of life. The power that the power gem can erupt depends on the power it can provide, so the combination of the power gem and the space gem can make it physically invincible. Obviously, Thanos cannot provide more energy than a fixed star can provide. This does not conform to the conservation of mass and energy. Even if all the molecules in Thanos' body are undergoing nuclear fusion, its scale is at most equivalent to the sum of the energy released by fixed star in a day. The quality of both is there. So, Thanos immediately changed methods. TIE particles can warp reality, altering the reality of creation, definitely, this reality including the bearer himself. An ingenious energy circuit that transforms one's body into a physique that can absorb any energy, even impact kinetic energy. Then use the absorbed power to drive the power gem to form a defense. A weird egg has survived a supernova storm. In this kind of environment, only Wang Hao can survive safely. No life, no god can be as comfortable as him in the most extreme environment in the universe. Someone actually withstood the pressure and survived. But this move didn't take much effort from Wang Hao, at most he lit a cannonball. So at this time he still has extra strength, and naturally he won't simply watch Thanos get through this crisis. Capture light energy, capture fixed star energy, capture special substances, weapon synthesis, start attacking. The supernova explosion is a range attack, so Wang Hao will provide some targeted attacks. With the support of such abundant energy, Haoshan was operating at full power, the surrounding energy was mobilized and absorbed by him, and then began to condense into an attack. What kind of holy sword, holy knife, that's how many there are. If a sword at 10,000 miles is not enough, then it will be 30,000 miles, and if a machete at 40 meters cannot cut it, then it will be 400,000 meters. Thanos, who formed a strange energy circuit, was suddenly attacked by Wang Hao, and suddenly, the original balance was broken. A body that can absorb damage from the range of a supernova explosion is not enough to absorb the ocean's intensive bombardment. It's like when a boulder that has been washed away by the water for countless years in the center of the river is still standing. When it is compressed into a bunch of high-pressure water jets, the result is that it can't last for a second. That's pretty much the case with Thanos. Almost instantly, the balance between Thanos and the energy frenzy of the outside world was broken, and as if sensing that something was wrong, Thanos made a decisive decision and triggered another explosion in the biggest explosion in the universe. Wang Hao's eyes were dull, and then he quickly moved his body and began to avoid it. This guy Thanos actually detonated the power gem. And this law gem that condenses countless secret energies in the universe and integrates various forces explodes. Its power, at least in this narrow range, is much more terrifying than a supernova explosion. So much so that Wang Hao, who was able to relax in the energy frenzy of the supernova, felt his scalp tingling and could only retreat temporarily. After a long time, when everything disappeared, even the release of the supernova had ended in this part, the figure of Wang Hao reappeared in this space. Then he wandered in the star shell after the supernova explosion, looking for traces of Thanos. Because it is the release of all matter and energy, there is nothing left of a supernova after the explosion. Only a relic called a star shell shows that it once happened. Definitely, at the moment energy is still erupting, destroying everything, but the core has already begun to loosen, revealing gaps. If Thanos was still alive, he would definitely be there. Sure enough, in this place full of light, the omniscient Wang Hao soon saw a hunched figure lingering in the energy gap in the energy tide. Then, Wang Hao appeared. Wang Hao, who seemed to have no mess at the corners of his clothes, compared with Thanos, whose body was completely undressed, and his indestructible skin had become riddled with holes. The contrast between the two was very obvious. The outcome seems to be very obvious. I have never met an opponent as powerful as you. Me too. Wang Hao gave Thanos a thumbs up. As expected of the purple sweet potato essence, this combat power, any other person, let alone a supernova, can resist Wang Hao's holy sword. Although it uses the power of infinite gems, being able to activate 3 infinite gems at the same time is enough to surpass the universe. How to say that sentence, isn't acknowledging the strength of the opponent affirming the strength of oneself. So Wang Hao is not stingy with bragging about Thanos. After all, it will appear that he who defeated him is even more awesome. But after the likes are over, the result will not change. Wang Hao has no intention of keeping his hand. Enough talking, you should be on your way. Before Thanos could continue talking, Wang Hao mobilized his energy again, and the holy sword descended, pressing on Thanos' head with unparalleled power. But this time, he has no power gems to resist. Seemingly realizing that the outcome would not change if he fought hard, Thanos suddenly made a bold choice when he could barely hold on. You want my life? Then come. Looking at Wang Hao standing in front of him, Thanos shouted loudly. Then, the reality was rewritten, the holy sword descended, and the power that could destroy the world was oppressed, but the structure of Thanos' body changed in that instant. The power of the holy sword was completely absorbed into Thanos' body. But he didn't explode. The attack that was enough to physically wipe out a planet didn't blow him up or crush him. Instead, change him. He changed his physical structure in that split second, and the mind-link mind gem made it still alive. Then, all the infinite power is directed to one point. A point compressed to the extreme, containing all matter and energy. Black hole. Yes, Thanos turned himself into a black hole. A black hole that represents the end of the universe, the end of everything. Because of this, he devoured Wang Hao's holy sword, but that's not all. This is the relic after a supernova explosion, filled with a lot of energy, and this is undoubtedly the best place for him to grow up. Suddenly, the continuously erupting energy tide began to reverse. The matter ejected from the original fixed star core to the surrounding space was distorted by gravity and began to change direction. Under the gravitational force of the black hole, which tends to be infinite, the matter and energy of the supernova are constantly approaching the black hole. The battle is still going on. You are a wolf. Watching this astonishing scene, Wang Hao also had to admire Thanos' decisiveness. In that case, he is already in a situation where he has no life but death. Even if he has the strength far surpassing the level Godfather, he cannot withstand the bombing of the supernova. But abandoning the flesh, abandoning one's own essence, this is also something that most people cannot do. The problem is, he was right. With the reality gem's ability to distort reality, and the mind gem's effect, he has become the only black hole in the universe with life consciousness. The point is, he is still growing rapidly. What does it take for a black hole to grow? Energy, devour. And where is this? This is the scene of a supernova explosion, and every inch of space here is filled with countless energies. Black hole, it's good to be your home. Suddenly, Wang Hao chuckled, the black hole is indeed indestructible, because all your attacks will be turned into the accumulation of his growth. But what if you can't grow up? Time flows. Wang Hao clasped his hands tightly, the space linked by the space gem supplied almost infinite energy, while the time gem was fully activated. Time stands still, and although the black hole Thanos shakes his body out of this restraint, he has no way to absorb any energy around him. Because the flow of energy stands still as time stands still. Recover. The green energy that spread hundreds of millions of miles away shrank suddenly. However, this fixed star that just exploded, the newly born supernova began to flow back at the same speed in an instant, and returned to the fixed star shining in the universe. I'll let you swallow. Arms crossed, Wang Hao looked at Thanos proudly. The supernova explosion caused a surging cosmic energy tide, but if the supernova explosion reversed and returned to fixed star, in this stable cosmic space, what else would this black hole absorb? And if he can't devour any energy, can't absorb anything, how can he grow? Definitely, it is impossible that nothing and any energy cannot be absorbed in the universe, but how slow is the growth time of normal black holes? Not to mention that Wang Hao can completely clear out a space that is wide enough to place the black hole, exile him into a space that only has himself, and isolate the area where the black hole is located forever. Under the power of time, the fixed star that was pulled over by Wang Hao returned to its original state as if nothing had happened. Then, like Wang Hao's palm, the fixed star returned to its space in the universe. The starlight from the distant universe projected over, and then distorted in front of Thanos, indicating his existence, but soon, he couldn't even enjoy the starlight. Hand over infinite gems, and I'll give you a treat. Turning into a black hole made Wang Hao have nothing to do with him for a while. But that doesn't mean Thanos is really stuck. There is nothing so easy. Wang Hao has a lot of time to spend with him, and Thanos, who is isolated by Wang Hao, can only maintain this state forever. So Thanos just put himself on reprieve. A figure appeared in front of Wang Hao. It was the former old Emperor Thanos. He hunched over, as if he was really on the verge of death, but Wang Hao naturally would not forget that the aftermath of his slap against himself turned Thor, who was holding Stormbreaker, over. This is the projection of his mind. His body cannot speak, so he can only communicate with Wang Hao in this way. You win. That is required. Wang Hao smiled slightly. Thanos' dull voice sounded in Wang Hao's mind. I used to believe that I was the destiny. I randomly wiped out half of the life in the universe, thinking that in exchange for the balance and normal development of the universe. But I was wrong. Wang Hao knew that this was Thanos, who had passed his life quickly after time accelerated, not the guy who hadn't snapped his fingers yet. Time gem is not a growth hormone, but a file reader, which reads files from the time it records. Therefore, the eaten apple will be restored out of thin air. Instead of missing a piece, the piece that entered the person's stomach is missing. The same goes for Thanos, who was recorded in the future and then extracted to the present. Including the fixed star just now, a lot of its energy was swallowed by Thanos, but now it has recovered without losing even a little bit. This Thanos has really passed through thousands of years. What he said is true. What he realized after thousands of years after he destroyed the Earth and wiped out half of the life in the universe with the Infinity Gauntlet. In less than 1,000 years, the universe has returned to its original form, with prosperous life, scarce resources, constant wars, and constant death. Thanos looked up, his old face full of pain. I thought I didn't kill enough, so I dispatched again. In 10 million years, I wiped out all life in the entire universe. Watching the stars shine, I think this will evolve in a normal direction. Best opportunity. Then you find that without life, the universe seems to have no meaning. All lives were killed. Such a feat, Wang Hao just thought about it anyway. It's not impossible, he can do it much faster than Thanos, and a burst of energy tides from all the fixed stars surrounded by planets is enough to wipe out 99% of the life in the universe. This is his basic ability. But it can be done, no need. He is not a murderous maniac, nor is he a member of the Balance sect. He must work hard to maintain the balance of the development of the universe. And over there Thanos is still beeping. Yes, without life, the universe seems to have lost its meaning of existence. What is the meaning of existence for the stars in the sky and the prosperity of eternity? The voice became lower and lower, and the figure in front of him became weaker and weaker. Two strange gemstones appeared in Wang Hao's vision for him to pick. Destroyed your own consciousness. Emperor Thanos appeared suddenly, and passed away suddenly, but the results were actually of little consequence. If it was the previous Thanos, Wang Hao's shot would be sure, and he would be knocked down in minutes. And becoming Emperor Thanos just added a little more trouble to him. However, there is a huge difference in the nature of the two. No matter how powerful the Emperor Thanos is, he can only surpass the level of the Heavenly Father God King, but it is still elusive to reach the level of Wang Hao. So after getting the infinite gems, he just persisted for a while. If it is in existence at the same level as Wang Hao's supernova explosion alone can survive, and it is almost impossible to get injured by using infinite gems. Therefore, in Wang Hao's view, all this is both unexpected and reasonable. Thanos must die, but he didn't expect to commit suicide. Time was reversed, the purple light returned and reunited, and the power gem that exploded before appeared in Wang Hao's hand. Collect all 6 infinite gems. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.